to say this. As soon as we get another member or two here, we'll get started. Thank you. I don't want to hold anybody up unnecessarily. All right. Good morning, everybody. We'll call day 3 of these hearings to order. I'm here, Councilmember Harris, Vice President Moreno, Councilmember Green. Today is obviously a heavy focus on infrastructure and its related departments. So we'll kick it off with capital budget, 5-year capital plan, and Office of Capital Projects Administration. Good morning and welcome to the table.
Good morning. I'm Lenitra Hassan, the Deputy CAO of Infrastructure as of September 2nd. And so I'll introduce, or I'll have the team introduce themselves.
Vince Smith, Director of Capital Projects.
Good morning, Kyle Holman, Director of Project Delivery Unit.
Laura Bryan, Assistant Planning Administrator in City Planning Commission.
And so I think we're just ready to get started.
Please do. Thank you.
Good morning once again. You should have in front of you the proposed capital budget presentation, and this is just an overview of the infrastructure department and program. Going to the...
Just move straight to slide 6.
Okay.
For the meeting starts.
Going to slide 6, the current capital program includes 397 projects at an appropriated value of $2.2 billion. And you can see the various breakdowns of the appropriations per department. Next slide. Next slide is an overview of the funding sources that make up the appropriations in the capital program. As you can see, and as you guys are probably aware, there is a diverse grouping of funding sources. And just to note, course, our FEMA funding is sort of in a post, in a place of post stream. The FEMA funding is, going down, especially in capital projects. And the primary source of capital funds now is coming from general obligation bonds. So that is, that's a critical transition as we move forward. And it really puts a greater importance and reliance on our bond funding as we engage the capital program. The next slide of $2.2 billion in appropriations, $1.7 billion is encumbered. And of the encumbered funds, $1.1 billion has been spent. And I did just want to take this opportunity just to note, in capital projects, the unencumbered funds is typically where we house our hard and soft cost contingencies. So, when we go through the capital budgeting process, we typically program, on average, a 10% contingency, and that contingency resides in the unencumbered funding, and that, that's a critical part of a project's life cycle. 2025 capital project highlights. I think we're going to take this opportunity to toot my own horn a little bit. On the capital side, and we've got highlights for each infrastructure department. We've completed all of our NORD-funded Hurricane Katrina projects, major milestone for us. We started working on the municipal auditorium project. Our remaining Hurricane Katrina projects, and they're noted in the slide, will be moving in, are in procurement right now. So we are close to wrapping up in capital our Katrina portfolio. We successfully relocated the 2025 Super Bowl turf to 5 NORD sites, and that's important. I was in a NORD commission meeting, and they were mentioning how the kids were really excited to be playing on Super Bowl turf, and that was at the Lafitte Greenway site. But we need to broadcast and make it known that there is Super Bowl turf at 5 NORD sites, for baseball fields. But that was just good to hear and really exciting. And we opened the first city-owned indoor pool with our renovations to the MX Jeff Berman Park pool. DPW highlights, just want to briefly touch. One that's not noted that I want to mention was the transition of the management of the JIRR program to CDM Smith. Going to the next slide, ORS, and each department will be talking about their highlights as they make the presentations. The ORS, Resilience Sustainability Department, completed the Lincoln Beach Master Plan and executed construction on their first NDR project. And of course, 66 of 67 of the Gordon Plaza sites have been acquired. Department of Property Management, successful implementation of trade contracts to help them engage their management obligations. Sanitation Department highlights, started construction of the new Elysian Fields Field Operation Warehouse, which is under the Administration of Capital Projects. And Kyle will be walking us through the upcoming bond sale. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you. And as Vince mentioned, we're at the point where we're moving away from using a lot of federal grants to fund the capital program, more into the bonds. So I'm here to just speak about what will be in front of voters on November 15th. So as y'all are aware, the council approved resolutions in August. There are 3 separate resolutions, one for affordable housing at $45 million, one for stormwater and drainage for $50 million, and another for infrastructure for $415 million. So that's totaling the $510 million. And so included with those resolutions were project lists. So those are available for the public to review. And then just wanted to note that any changes to those lists would need to go through the Public Works Committee of the council. So the,
Wait, can I stop you for a second, Kyle? I want to expand on that point for a minute. You know, I guess first of all, let's just go item by item. For affordable housing, if the bond issuance doesn't pass, that means everything would have to come from the general funds. Is that correct?
correct.
And so by having affordable housing and using these dollars, it allows the city, both the council and the incoming administration, the flexibility to use bond dollars and general fund as appropriate instead of just relying on general fund.
Correct. There are certain uses of the housing trust fund that the bonds can go towards, but not all uses. So the bonds could be to help for the capital improvements.
And I guess before I get to stormwater and drainage, I should have begun with this. The voting on all of these measures, as far as you're aware from the Board of Liquidation, would not increase taxes.
Correct.
So there's no danger of taxes being increased as a result of this. When we talk about stormwater and drainage, are you aware of any other city programs that would fund this level of work without bonds being issued?
Not outside of federal grant programs.
Right, so we would have to apply to a federal grant program, hope we got the grant, get the money, as opposed to having the money immediately.
Correct. And what we've seen is a lot of those FEMA programs have either gone away or reduced in size.
And last, with infrastructure, we already know there's not enough money in the JIR program. Plus, you have buildings and roads and streets and bridges. I see Lenitra shaking her head. Yes, affirmatively of all this. This is a down payment on making sure work can be done. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then last, if we don't really work at trying to get this passed, where we're left is spending down what little we have in current existing bonds, and the next council and the next administration not only having an operating challenge we're working through, but a capital one as well.
Correct. A lot of the current bonds are already allocated to projects.
Okay. Well, I just want to make it really crystal clear because I think, you know, there's always naysayers on things. And so I think it's important to remind the public that we have immense bonding capacity. And if people want to see their streets fixed and things draining correctly and have housing, that this is a path that does it and does it without raising taxes.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem.
Councilmember Moreno and Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you. Councilmember Druso, I just want to thank you for working so closely on this and the fact that, as you had mentioned already, why this doesn't raise taxes. As you all probably recall, there was kind of an initial proposal coming out from the CAO's office of potentially doing a $600 million bond proposition. And if it would have been $600 million, then the Board of Lic would have said, well, we need to roll the mills forward, which would have potentially cost, of course, that tax increase. But that's why Council Chair Joe DeRusso worked so closely with the Board of Lic to figure out what exactly was that right spot, being $510 million so that there wouldn't be any tax increases. So really, I just wanted to thank you, Budget Chair DeRusso, for just being so careful about this and ensuring that we would get critical projects done, but also not create any more additional costs to the people of this city. So this right here is really critical for my next administration to move forward and ensuring that we can get infrastructure projects done. Ensuring that this passes is very important to me, including to this city council. And I do hope that the voters of the city see the importance of not hindering the capital budget. Because obviously we already have issues with our operational budget, with our general fund budget. But if this doesn't pass, we will also have issues with our capital budget moving forward in my administration. So just once again, thank you all for working so closely on this and getting that number right so that there wouldn't be any tax increases, but we can still create these infrastructure projects moving forward.
Yeah, Councilmember Thomas, thank you.
Now, I had asked earlier during earlier meetings with Sewage and Water Board about WIFIA and TIFIA and what was our loan capacity and had we applied to the federal government for infrastructure loan funds and where are we? Do we have any outstanding balance? have we applied for them for, especially for TIFIA funding for infrastructure? And if we have, what capacity do we have left?
So we actually looked at pursuing a TIFIA loan to cover what unfunded JR scope will be outstanding.
And that's the Transportation Infrastructure Finance Investment Act.
Correct.
For people who don't know.
Correct. And so Susan Water Board has the WIFIA, the water
right.
side loan for funding the scope of the JR that's water related. So we looked at the TIFIA loan, transportation, to look at, could we pursue that as an option to further the JR program. And what the financial advisors actually found is using the bonds was a better deal for the city. So just the what kind of debt we had to put up, we just had a better kind of market for a bond program than using the TIFIA loan.
Yeah, but do we have any outstanding debt at all anyway, just in case you have an issue? Because you can't guarantee what the public is going to do in terms of the bondage. But do we have any outstanding debt at all, or any loan capacity?
Not on a TIFIA loan.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you. We keep interrupting you, and I mean, I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I will say, I want to thank the people sitting at that table in particular, because I know we worked together on trying to formulate for all of us, I'm looking at the district council members as well, about the things that are going in there. And for at least District A, if you want Bel Air between 10th and Old Hammond Highway fixed, if you want City Park to have drainage, if you want other places, Uptown, Mid-City, Holly Grove, to get things fixed, the only way we're going to be able to do it is by passing this. So I want to thank you all for really being partners in this at the table, because we couldn't have done it without it. And, Kyle's kind of being generous here, but it was a back and forth with all of us, and he worked very hard, and I don't know that gets set enough, and as did everybody at the table. Councilmember Green.
Councilmember Giarrusso, I want to thank you for your work, and I want to thank you all too for the work and the meetings that we had to determine what projects, for example, were important to our district. I'm pleased that in District D, we're looking at the potential of doing significant investment in some communities that have been underserved. That's the best word that I can use. For example, the Desire and the Ninth Ward communities, and some major projects that are going to enhance the quality of living in our communities. And it's important to recognize that as people are analyzing the benefits of this bond package, that it's the kind of work that, if we do it right, will attract people to come to our communities, will also potentially save money in certain respects in terms of long-term maintenance. So it's an investment now that is going to pay dividends in the future, that's going to get more interest in our communities, that's going to certainly put people to work immediately, but is also going to do some things that can actually be very beneficial to our community in terms of cost savings in the long run. So I just want to encourage voters to look at all of the facts relative to this matter, the benefits of the long term, and to recognize, as you're hearing today, that a lot of thought and input has gone into this process, and it's something that could be very, very beneficial for the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Green.
What?
So, go ahead.
No,
Yep.
we can
Councilmember
continue,
Thomas is
like,
back.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, what's the interest on that
For the
bond? Yeah.
So this is just approving the city to sell bonds. We won't know the interest until we actually decide when the
Okay.
sale will happen.
Okay, so if people say there's 8% interest, or it would ultimately be 837 million, or almost maybe 900 million on $500 million of bonds, that's just guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
it's-
don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know. It's going to be dependent on market conditions and the
Okay.
timing.
So is there a level of interest which makes it worth it, or that doesn't make it worth it? So if someone would say, if you analyze where the city's rating is now, if we're gonna have to wind up paying $900 million back on 510, what would you say?
Well, I think that's like when the decision to be
Okay.
made about
When we know more, okay.
like that's when we'll have the financial advisors,
Gotcha.
do those calculations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, I think we've covered all of that in enough detail. We appreciate it. I'm not going to keep you here as long as the legislative auditor, I promise.
Do we want to go through the rest? Well, that's in the next slides. Yeah, so we can just go through and highlight some of the success stories of the 2019 bond proposition. So that was the last proposition that was passed for $500 million. And so we'll just go through some of those projects that were funded through that. So under the affordable housing, that would be Grove Place and O.C. Haley are just two examples. So it could be, a multifamily home to like an apartment complex. Under stormwater and drainage, I just want to clarify, these were federally funded programs, but these are the types of projects that we're looking to do. So on the right is Taylor Playground, where they're installing underground storage tanks. So there's a redevelopment of that playground once the storage tanks are installed. And then on the left is Miraboo Water Gardens. So that's going to be just an area for drainage to collect before it goes into the drainage system.
And a
then-
nice teaching center and a few other resources. I just want to make
Yes.
that clear.
Oh, yes.
Right, and potentially jobs, that's right.
Yes, and that will be,
Come on, let's
the
promote 'em.
initial hazard mitigation project is just the stormwater, and then it'll be subsequent investments in there. And that just shows, though, how we leverage, the federal dollars with these bonds, too. So not only are we, oftentimes building something new, but we're also capitalizing on federal resources to do more above and beyond the original scope. And so another example, the pool on the West Bank, so that was supplemented FEMA with bonds. Skelly Rupp Stadium was 100% bond funded. The Super Bowl turf that Vince mentioned previously, and then Turo Shakespeare. So that was a city-owned property that was blighted, that the city is investing $6 million in stabilization, and then the developers are actually doing further investments for senior affordable housing beyond that. So, and then a bridge replacement, and then just streets and roads improvements. So of the infrastructure, $415 million, $250 million are going to be spent on streets, roads, and bridges. So, there's going to be large investments in all these neighborhoods. That's good. And I think that will wrap it up. And then Laura is going to go through the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan.
Thank you.
My name is Laura Bryan, Assistant Planning Administrator, City Planning Commission. We are going to walk through the capital improvement plan presentation. So just a bit of background, this is a requirement of the city charter. And we began the process in April with a kickoff to departments. Their submissions came back to us in May. We held the charter-required hearings with each agency to go through each of the projects that they have requested capital funding for. Those are live streamed and the videos are available online. And then next slide. So this year, actually, Lenitra, next slide. Okay, so this year we made a few improvements to the submission and review process. One of the big changes was moving the submission process. We had previously accepted Excel spreadsheets, and under Kyle's direction, we moved the submission process under Questica. So the capital budget is now housed, the requests come in and are on the same platform as the operating budget, which is easier, I think, for departments to submit and for Kyle to work with. And we also created a public-facing dashboard with each of the requests. So the IT team helped us publish a dashboard with all the agency submissions so that people could click and see the categories. You can go to the next slide. That's an example of the dashboard to show you what
Oh, that's
different
great.
agencies need.
That's great.
And the next slide. So the overview of funding requests, there were 34 agencies submitted a total of 243 projects, reaching $4 billion over the 5-year period between 2026 and 2030. 2.2 billion requests were for bond-funded projects. So the funding categories, when each agency submits a request, they select a funding source, and there are 5 sources represented in this year's capital improvement plan. It's either general obligation bonds, which is the administration is proposing, you just talked about that in detail. There's also self-generated funds, so New Orleans Aviation Board, MSY, and FMC have self-generated funds, and then intergovernmental funds, which are funding sources from other governmental agencies, and then any USDOT or EPA grants. Can you go to the next slide? So the expenditures proposed in this plan for general obligation bonds, there's $465 million. Self-generated funds, we always plan to spend all of the requests for self-generated funds. Intergovernmental, same with the intergovernmental bucket of funding, and USDOT and EPA. Those are just grant requests noted in the plan. So each year we go through and sort of identify some priorities. This year, our priorities were state of good repair, criminal justice complex, and warehousing and storage, and those are identified in the projects that are recommended for funding. Overall, there were either partial or full funding recommendations for 115 different projects. Okay. We also went on some site tours, and so these are some just photos. This is New Orleans Mosquito and Termite Rodent Control Board, and this is their hangar and their pesticide warehouse that they're requesting bond dollars for to harden the infrastructure. Next slide. This is the Oscar Medrano building, which houses the Real-Time Crime Center, Office of Public Safety Support Services, which needs some repairs, and so they have requested some bond funding for capital expenses. NOPD headquarters on Broad. This is part of the criminal justice complex that I mentioned briefly, but obviously a plan needs to be developed, and there's requests to renovate or build new, and so that's recommended to be funded. The City Planning Commission met August 26th, and they approved the plan. They had some discussion. One of the discussion points was really about the nature of the requests being capital requests, and so Director Homan is preparing some guidance for next year to help inform departments prior to their submissions about exactly how those requests would fall within that description. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and there's more information on our website.
Thank you. Angela, do you want to speak now? Angela Kinlaw.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I wanted to come here this morning to name that throughout the day there are different specific points around the capital budget that I'd like to speak to, but I wanted to start off the day speaking to a bit of a tension that I know that exists in the room right now, and I think that if we could just name what the tension is, we could actually use this budget season to work through it and come out on the other side. It's very evident that in the past, we have had budgets also impacted by the capital projects that have primarily funded criminalization around the city, and we've seen abundant instances of neglect and mismanagement. So while it is the case that we have stated concern about the bond that's being proposed, we're also naming that our concern can either be exacerbated or addressed through the budget season. So we don't want to just kind of glaze over things and assume that there's trust around this bond, because unfortunately we have seen councils come and go and administrations come and go, and people have made promises time and time again. So the good news is that people can decide to demonstrate the commitment to the people on the front end rather than asking people to just kind of wait it out, see what happens, vote yes blindly, and then come out in January and hope for the best. We believe that we can actually lean into what's possible by what's demonstrated during this budget season right now, long before November 15th. Why? Because we justifiably have concerns about how money has been spent despite the promises. Now, I'd like to say more about the nuanced concerns so they could be addressed, but if my time is up, then I'll.
Thank you. All right, Bruce Riley. Good morning, Bruce.
Morning, everybody. Bruce Riley with Vote. Congrats on almost being done with an election season. We're getting down the wire here. A few things on the budget. You know, I was reading through the capital budget and I noticed things that were recommended and things that were recommended to be denied. You recommended the denial for the sheriff's office to the Phase 3 connectivity, $5 million, and the Phase 3 development cost, $218,000. I just thought that was strange, whereas you all said that the judge forced you to build this jail expansion, and then you're gonna, not fund it all the way? So, I mean, I'm for that, but keep that same energy throughout the cycle. I saw that someone had requested $38,500 to replace this presenter table. I don't know what kind of table costs $38,500, but it's part of the thing of, you need to look at some of the details of what people are asking for. $9 million request to update the 4th floor of the crime lab building, which is brand new. $9 million to update a floor so it can do DNA testing. I don't understand that at all. In the youth study center, the jail, the youth jail, $545,000 to replace cell furniture. There's only 40 cells at the place. That's $13,000 per room. $600,000 to change the 40 doors so they swing outward instead of swing inward. I don't know why that's a big deal, but that's $15,000 per door that you probably would give to McDonald Construction, who's building Phase 3 and also built that youth jail. So it's some of these things where it's like, you know, $1 million for bulletproof glass at the front desk of 8 police stations. That's $125,000 per desk. You root around the internet, you find out that if you have a convenience store, you can do the whole front for like $20,000. So, you know, it's $500 a square foot basically for bulletproof glass. And you can go on, things that don't pass the smell test over and over, and we wonder why we're broke. We wonder why we're taking out big interest bonds that we have to pay.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's 2 things really quickly before we move on to the next presentation. One is, remember also the council, and I'll take some credit for this one, was like, hey, Sheriff, what is your bonding capacity? And they didn't know, and then they found out, and then they got $15 million. So I think, and this is one of those places where I know there was tension yesterday, but we really worked together. And what the administration and the council position is if you have your own bonding capacity, you should be using that instead of the city's bonding capacity. So I agree with you, Bruce. And that's how I think why you're seeing the reductions for both of the speakers in those expenses is that it's a sheriff expense and you ought to be at the table figuring it out. The other thing too, I think we didn't really mention maybe because we're a little bit in the weeds, is that if you look, 2 things. One, the ordinances ordain what the projects are going to be, and the council would have to change them by vote. So that's also a little bit different than how capital projects have been done in the past too. So you can look in the infrastructure project in particular and drainage to see what those projects are. Councilmember Thomas.
Yeah, I think it's the reason why I asked the question about the bond market, period. I mean, it sounds good on the surface that you want to issue bonds, but do you want a mortgage? Future, do you want to use bad timing? Do you want to invest in that when the payback will be a double, almost 2 times a double what the actual bonds issuance are? So it's a lot more to consider than just the fact that we need to issue bonds. And so maybe people weren't listening. That's the reason why I made the comment earlier.
Thank you. All right, next presentation, please.
The next presentation will be Capital Projects Administration. And do want to note the presentation was reduced to focus on 2026. I did have 2025 accomplishments and information as well. So just going to jump into the 2026 information. Okay. Going to the first slide, which is a personnel slide. Our 2025 budget contained 18 staff positions. 2026, it's been reduced to 15. Currently, by attrition, we're down 2 project managers and projecting a possible 1 additional project manager leaving at the end of the year because of health situations. By attrition, we have reduced our staff, and I'll talk more about that as we get into the presentation. For me and in my opinion, once again, by attrition, I think we have right-sized our organization. 2026 department goals. We're projecting in 2026 completing 85% of the projects that we are projecting to complete next year, which is 23 projects. So we're projecting to complete 20 of 23 projects. Our goal for 2025 was to complete 24 of 28 projects. We actually projecting to the end of the year, we should be finished with 36 projects. So we actually exceeded the projections that we made for project completion last year. And just to mention a couple of those projects, the municipal and traffic court is done, and we're working with the courts to purchase furniture and transition into their new building, which they are planning on opening at the beginning of next year. Same for the NOFD headquarter project. That project is done. We're ordering furniture, working with the fire department so that they can transition in to be in place for the beginning of next year as well. We completed a VA building study to help, as we move into the future, to help guide decisions related to what the future of the VA building might be.
I'd like to see a copy of that study.
Okay, we can make that available to the council. And just a note on the projects that we are completing this year, several of those projects, because of the reappropriations that we had to make to, cover various, budget constraints that we have, they were projected to go into construction, but we moved the construction funding. So, the designs will be finished, and I guess the benefit or the silver lining in that is they are shovel-ready projects. So the benefit of having a shovel-ready project that's more attractive, as you pursue grants and other types of funding, you tend to be looked upon more favorably if you've got a project that's ready to go versus a project that has to go through the design process. That also would accelerate the spend down of bonds if those projects are funded to advance. We think, once again, the silver lining in that is we've got projects ready to go when the funding is available. The next slide, 2026 department goals. Continued implementation of Hurricane Ida repairs. The municipal and traffic court was the largest Hurricane Ida damaged facility. So we've completed that project. We'll be starting the design for the Mahalia Jackson repairs the beginning of next month. And our Hurricane Ida portfolio, most of the projects in that portfolio are smaller projects. So we are confident that we can finish at least 80% of those projects next year. We're going to complete the full integration of drone and 360-degree camera utilization in the CPA project management operations. We started training on drone flying to help us with our project documentation and as-built conditioning. 360 cameras allow you to take a picture in a room, and you can move the picture around so that you can see every wall, every floor. So that's been a great addition to our operations portfolio, and we plan to be fully integrated in terms of having more of our staff trained and ready to operate that equipment. We integrated, this year we did integrate our management database into the IRIS portfolio. So now our portfolio updates and information is available through IRIS. We also started using the Procore construction database, which Public Work uses right now. It is an industry standard program that is used by a lot of the construction companies in the industry. And as Laura mentioned, we assisted in the transition to Questica for the annual capital budgeting process. Next goal, update the CPA Division 0 general condition specifications. We started that process, but we want to really dive into that next year and update our general condition specifications. We will be wrapping up our updates to our architectural contracts this year. So we'll be rolling that out at the beginning of next year. Lastly, prepare for the implementation of projects in the bond sale. We've all talked about the, how critical that bond sale is coming up. And, just to note in preparation for that, and looking back at last year, other highlights and stats inside of capital projects, checking with the Office of Supply Diversity. We are tracking at a 37% DBE participation on our capital projects. We have, of the projects we bid this year, we have been averaging 5 bidders. The projects have been coming in at roughly 10% below budget, so we're doing very well with interest in our bids, and the pricing has been coming in good as well. We are also averaging 2 change orders per project, and we're coming in between 5 and 10% with our change orders. So we've been, that to me, that shows we're not only doing a good job on the front end with budgeting for our projects, but we've been fortunate in managing the projects to stay within the budgets that we've established. Next slide for the budget summary. For the general fund, we are proposing a reduction, a $115,000 reduction in our total budget. Our operating budget is managed through Kyle and the PDU, and I think it's integrated with other operations. But we're a small shop. We don't ask for much, just in terms of the personnel services. Once again, we will probably be reducing our staff by 3 project managers, and just given where we are with the trajectory on our current portfolio and in anticipation of the bond sale, I feel like where the department staffing is right now is, it's reduced and it's right-sized as we move into the future. Okay, no change in the other operating. And Kyle, do you?
Yeah, these are just the pass-through grants for Sewage and Water Board's power plant and the RTA State Capital Outlay Awards. So that's just the balance of those pass-through grants.
Okay. Budget impact, once again, I don't think that the reductions given are right-sizing. I don't think the impacts on next year's budget is going to severely impact our operation. And, I think that we will still be able to pursue and achieve our goal of delivering the capital program to improve the quality of life for the citizens of the city. Recommendations that may improve processes without additional costs. One, and we've talked about this in-house for quite some time, we feel like if the city, and we can do this through executive direction, currently the state, they increased their small project threshold from $150,000 to $250,000. We feel like the city needs to do the same thing, and the advantage that that would bring to us is it would enable us to expedite our small projects, getting them under construction. That's going to be particularly important as we move into the Hurricane Ida repairs. It will provide more opportunity for our DBE companies and smaller companies to pursue work with the city, and it would definitely expedite the processes we have to go through, for getting a project from procurement into construction. So we do recommend that that be considered. Reduce the contract routing period. The biggest problem we have with project delivery is the bureaucracy that we have to continue with bureaucracy, just like the public does. And just thinking about, once again, the Hurricane Ida projects, you may have a 3-month project, but it takes 3 to 4 months to procure. So you may have a 1-month project that's going to take 4 months to deliver because of the processes that we have to go through. I think it's critical that our procurement processes be examined and that those processes be reduced, be made more efficient. That would definitely assist us in a big way to improve our project delivery. Got to include a contract in the bid package for successful bidders to execute and return once they issue once purchasing issues an intent to award. Most of our construction contracts are standard, and the only thing that changes is the company that gets them and the amounts of the contract. So we would like it to be considered that maybe when we put the bid package out, we have our standard contract prepared, and once we know who the low bidder is, then they have to get bonding and those kind of things. But that would shave a lot of time off of not only moving the projects, but just the efficiency and the amount of staff and people that we have to to administer the bureaucracy. It would cut down on it tremendously. So we think that's an idea that's worth some consideration. Eliminate unnecessary approvals in the routing process. There are a lot of hands that contracts touch that, don't understand why, and probably they were put in place because of something that happened years ago. That process needs to be examined, needs to be minimized. So once again, we can focus on doing the bricks and mortar work versus working through the bureaucracy of getting it done. Allow the inclusion of a 10% allowance in construction contracts, that the department heads have the authority to execute. Change orders over 10% would have to go before the change order committee and have a more of an executive authorization. I've worked at municipalities, in the past, and one of the things that we did was included a 10% contingency allowance, owner's allowance, in the contract. That gives the owner control over that amount, and as we have change orders, we can execute the change orders. Once again, speeds up the payment process, which helps our smaller contractors.
Hang on, I have a quick question about that. So right now, when it comes to the I guess, what's it called, the change order committee that you have to
Yes.
go to? Okay. So of the change orders that come through the committee, what percentage of those are over that 10% threshold and what percentage are under?
Yeah. Well, for capital projects, once again, we've done a pretty good job in staying within our budget. So we don't go before that committee a lot. And if we do, once again, one of the conditions to go before it is if in fact if this change order is taking a project above that threshold. In that condition, I think there needs to be, that it's okay to have some, to have another group or a higher authority, go ahead and look at it and make execute it as required. But once again, if a project is within budget, then, I think the department head should have the discretion to do that because it expedites the process. One of the biggest problems I'm having right now, especially on our larger projects, OJC, MTC, change orders typically have what they call change proposals in them. And we don't like to issue a change order with every change order proposed. So you may have a bundle of change order proposals, and most of them, the work is done. So they can't bill for the work. And we've had some contentious conversations with contractors because, they're waiting for us to process a change order for work that's been complete, maybe a small contract, a subcontractor that's doing it, they're not getting paid. So it does create challenges. So, once again, I think that's something that needs to be considered. As long as, as a department head, if I'm staying within budget, then I am, I'm meeting my goal. I am fulfilling my obligations to deliver a project within the constraints that are set before me. So I think that is something, once again, that needs to have some serious consideration. Lastly, execute AE contracts based on the projected project duration. Right now we have the limitation of having to execute an amendment, and in a lot of cases it's a time extension only. If you look at all of the departments that have to process amendments, that is a tremendous number of contracts that has to be processed, has to go through the system, which takes a lot of people. Typically takes 2 months from, when we get a bid, it takes 2 months to route a contract, which adds to the 3 to 4 month, procurement process. If we were able to issue a contract, when we start a project, we develop an overall project duration because, it's our responsibility to manage time as well as cost. So if on the front end, when we execute contracts, and that may, of course, contracts beyond a year have to come before the council. I mean, that's something that has to be worked out. But what that would do is streamline the process. It will eliminate the number of contracts that we are processing, in the city. And once again, it would create an efficiency that would allow us to better deliver projects. So, once again, that's something I think that, the council and the mayor, the next administration should consider as we, look at how to improve our project delivery. Lastly, this is, I've been with the city 15 years. I will be retiring at the end of this year. And, this was a particularly good year for capital projects. And I feel like I'm leaving the department in a great place. We've got a good team, a stable team. Most of my team members have been with me at least 3, 4, 5 years and up. Good group, very diverse group, not only in terms of who we are as people, but we have various disciplines. We've got architects, engineers, urban planners. So we've got a diverse group that helps us as we work to, better deliver the projects. We've got experience bases that help us, as we try to negotiate through project delivery. So it has been, it's been an honor. I didn't expect to be here 15 years, but it's been a great experience. And I want to thank council, the mayors that I've served for allowing me the opportunity to be a part of all of the good things that have happened in the city. And, once again, I feel like the department is in a great place, and we're ready to move forward into the future to continue as our vision says, to deliver the capital program to improve the quality of life for the citizens of New Orleans. That's it.
Well, Vince, the board is lit up, which I assume is what I'm going to say too, which is this is not an easy job. And I don't think people also understand, particularly when you're running the city, how many competing interests there are. So if you give something to District A, then District D isn't getting the thing, then we got to do things, then we have court orders. So I just want to say thank you for your appreciation of all of that. And also, you know, good management also involves having a great team with you, and the fact that you've built such a strong team, I think should go noticed as well. So thank you very much for your service, and hope you get to enjoy your retirement. Councilmember Green and Councilmember Thomas.
Vince Smith, I think that one of the reasons that you've been able to build such a great team is because people recognize your sincerity and your desire to do positive work in our city. For example, just a couple of weeks ago when you were at Lakeview explaining at the neighborhood engagement meeting a very difficult process, and people were able to understand the complexities of the work that goes on in capital projects. I've been to multiple meetings during my short tenure where you've been present and you've been willing to talk to people. And that one, for example, happened to be on a Saturday. Those are the things that you don't see in the media. You have a very complex job, but I think that you've done it well. And I appreciate the fact that you've always been available to share with the public information that the public needs so that they can understand this process, because it's not a simple one. And it involves not only change orders, it involves bidding, it involves advertising, it involves a lot of processes. So thank you for the work that you've done, and you know, we look forward to seeing you still at different meetings, and we'll be calling you. And no, I'm just joking. We're not gonna call you that much. You go on and relax. But thank you very much for your sincere desire to have seen projects happen in our city. And I will tell you, as I look at you, I see, especially in my district, what you've done. The time that you've spent, the residents of the district appreciate those favorable developments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Green. Councilmember Thomas.
Vince, first of all, man, thank you for your years of service. And though folk may not understand all the balls you had to balance inside the system, working with different elected officials, different administrations, I think the highest level of respect was from the people outside of the system, who, though you couldn't always let them have their way, that you were always a guiding light in terms of how to do business, the complexities of it, and how to deal with some of the hurdles that municipal government and politics put in the way. So I do know the 9 years that I worked in professional services and with engineering firm, you were always a person that we could talk to at least find out how best to do business with the city and how best to participate and do projects. So sometimes the greatest compliment is not from the people you work with, but the people who are outside of the system, and you had the ultimate respect there.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. Bruce was first up, but we'll go Angela, then Tracy Washington, and I'll repeat this when he's here. Just again for everybody, because of matters in the past, I'd ask that everybody please fill out your comment cards completely. So name, address, who you're representing, and then if you are representing somebody, you still need to check the back. Like I know Bruce is with vote, but that we just want to make sure we have accuracy in all of our cards, and it's important for our process. So with that, Ms. Kinlaw, and then Ms. Washington.
Hello again. I just wanted to name a couple of things that actually don't cost any money at all, but I'm hoping that they can be named and maybe some action items can be taken around them for this budget season. In watching a number of capital projects come into fruition and or be in the process of coming into fruition, there have been some areas of concern, and I think that all the people here can help out. One of the things that we wanted to name is that there's a need for an easily accessible information link in regards to all of the capital projects that is user-friendly, that has the name of the project manager on it with some information for contact in terms of who to contact. It has been very challenging to identify who the project manager is for some of the projects, and the reason we're asking for it to be easily accessible is because we also do not see enough change in any of the updates that we do see when we see them. So for example, we would think that there would be some kind of activity on these multi-million-dollar projects minimally on a monthly basis. but sometimes months go by where we see no activity on the projects at all. But what we do see is we see some of the funding being allocated or spent on the administrative costs. So when we're seeing administrative costs be funded over year after year after year, and we don't see any action around the project, that becomes very concerning. We've seen some date changes, but not necessarily the project change. And I think that the $141 million project around the Federal Resilient Grant that was applied for in the Landry administration, but has still not been.
That completes your time. Thank you, Angela. And it's a good point. I plan on asking that to Mr. Hathaway when he comes here, because we passed a law that says they're supposed to have JR project name, project manager, internally and externally, and their contact information. I'm very aware, so don't worry, we're gonna ask. Get to Ms. Washington, and then Bruce, just while you were out, I made a general reminder to complete the cards completely and just check the back for me. I know you're with Vote, we all know that, but I just want to make sure it's applied equally to everybody. You'll be the last speaker, okay? Thank you. Ms. Washington.
I'm Dr. Washington.
Sorry, Dr. Washington. I apologize.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Tracy Washington. I made that correction, and Mr. Giarrusso, Councilman Giarrusso, knows that I'm not only an attorney, I hold a PhD in public policy and 2 masters, one in business administration and public administration. And first off, I want to thank Mr. Smith for his service to the city. Thank you so much for the time that you've spent. I've actually seen you at a public meeting, and you are quite engaging, and you spend a lot of time doing explanations for folks who don't necessarily understand sometimes what all goes into this. I've done this. I've worked for municipalities and probably one of the bigger organizations that had capital projects was Capital Metro, the transportation organization in Austin. I wasn't planning on being here today, but I'll speak basically in general. I'm a data nerd. I love data. Data is destiny. I see a lot. This is day 3 from day 1 and day 2, and I anticipate throughout the budget process where folks will come up and they will make statements, 10% here, 5% there. Our practice has been in the past, all of these things. When we are now a city facing such tremendous challenges with budget, I'm hopeful that you will require our administrative leads to come in with data, right? Supporting the statements, evidence, as it were, for our attorney nerds, of what they're stating. And when I say data is destiny, we need data from the past, but we also need data to the extent that they can. I know not everyone can provide us with, say, for instance, trend analysis, forecasting. If they can't, there are tons of people like me who will volunteer and do it.
Thank you. That completes your time. Thank you, Dr. Washington. Your time is up. Thank you. We give everybody 2 minutes, and so I have to be. Okay, well, say the last 2 words. Can we turn the microphone on for the last 2 words? Go ahead.
Planning for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, members of council. Bruce Riley with Vote. I'm not saying this part of the project is easy. This is probably the hardest part of running the city. So don't be fooled that I'm up here criticizing everything just because I think it's so simple. A couple other things I wanted to point out. $2.5 million, another $1 million, $3.5 million to remediate mold at the court. If you did $25 a square foot mold remediation, that'd be 140,000 square feet of mold remediation. If it's that widespread of a problem, then that's a level of neglect that needs to be named. 1.7 million going through Department of Management for a variety of repairs to the court and the DA office. Maybe that's reasonable, but then there's all these other costs. $175,000 for video surveillance at the courthouse. There's already security in every one of these courtrooms. I don't understand it. Someone should have to explain it. The DA budget wants $21,000 for surveillance outside or somewhere around their building, which is actually a much more reasonable cost, but it's still too high. If you Google, because you want to get surveillance at your house or your building, your business, it's way too high. $3.5 million for elevator replacements at the courthouse, which is just a 4-story building. There's only like 2 or 3 elevators in the whole place. So if you go and Google cost of elevators, you'll find about $500,000 will cover about 4 elevators or 5 elevators. Why $3.5 million? $2.6 million to replace cast iron drainage pipes. Word to the people, everyone uses PVC now. It lasts longer, it's much cheaper. I don't know why we'd use cast iron again. $1.5 million for HVAC. Another $2.2 million was requested for security perimeter fencing around the courthouse. You realize that there's about 1,800 feet around that whole block. At that price, you'd be paying $1,222 per foot of fencing. I don't know who comes up with these numbers. No wonder why they didn't get it. Requested $2.1 million to replace the fire alarm system. Sounds crazy to me. The clerk asked for $9 million this year and $49 million next year to renovate some buildings at 138. It's ridiculous.
Thank you. And Bruce, we appreciate the feedback. I mean, like, that's what democracy is, right? Yeah, no, like, it's cool. That's what I hear you. And we're not going to pay $500 for a toilet seat. I get it. All right, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Morgan, yes, sir, I got your card, so we won't start your time till you come. Do you want to speak, sir? I got your card. Yes, sir, absolutely. It's your turn.
Morning to the
Good morning, sir.
morning to the councilman and everybody in the house. The people of NOLA asked for a change in you creating the system of the day for the budget system. They asked that the system that should be installed is this. I'm gonna use for instance, all right, 4 years, give the police what they want in the budget system. In the next 4 years, give the workers what they want in the budget system. That's the way Kenner system works. And Kenner are more productive and professional as our old system today. When you have the system that you have now, you have favoritism and giving one organization in one scenario more money than they could need. I'm gonna show you one organization that you created a failure to. 90% of you on that council. And that was Sujo Hutchison, who was over parish prison, the sheriff. Y'all never did give her the money to run 100% of that organization. No, y'all must have had a great animosity against her because you're black. And one more point I want to make and put across today. Oliver Thomas, Morano, you owe Oliver Thomas an apology because the reason is that Oliver Thomas was designated over the East. And many times I went to meetings back in the East where the theme park was going to be taken off the ground, airborne. But the point is this, the council held it up, and because the reason why they held it up, they didn't want to see Oliver Thomas over $1 billion of that money to government of money for the East. And you held it up, Miranda, because you wanted it, because you wanted the authority to govern that money.
All right, Mr. Morgan. Thank you, sir. That's your time. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, we'll begin next with Department of Property Management. Thank you very much to Capital Projects for the detailed presentation, your work. All right, so next up will be Property Management and Real Estate Records.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Y'all can start.
Good morning, everyone. We're the Department of Howard Nobles. I'm the Director of Property Management for the City of New Orleans. With me is Enrico Sterling, the Deputy Director, and Whitney Caballero, the Secretary of the Department. Starting off quick, we'll just go straight into our goals for 2026. We have the new asset management system in place. We have the facilities mapped in the system. Now we are currently working on the sublayers in that system. So our goals for next year are to get all of the HVAC fully mapped inside of the facilities, the fire suppressions, the roofing layer, as well as the plumbings.
Trey, let me stop you there.
Go right ahead.
Do you have some sense, or is this asset mapping system going to tell you what buildings, city-owned buildings, are technically blighted or do not meet the code enforcement standard?
Yes, so the overall system has a large capacity. We've gone through sort of the introduction, as in we've gotten city facilities mapped inside of it. We can currently track projects inside of it. So when our plumber has been making repairs, as you've seen throughout this building, he's dropping in, but currently it's sort of sitting inside of a shell of the building, and we have all of these logs. As we go through and add the layers, each layer will include every component. So on like a plumbing layer, you will have every last sink, every last toilet, every last urinal on it, so that we can see how often it's serviced. We'll even have shut-off valves, because we've been replacing all of those due to they've been failing. They're 60 years old in some cases.
So, but I'm thinking of buildings like the old Second District Police Station that is just sitting empty. Do we have a condition of that building listed on the asset map?
So that building is currently being marketed by NOBC for us. And they have an RFP out on the street right now.
Right. I know what's happening, but I guess my question is, and not to, my question is, that's just an example of a building that's just been sitting there for years. I know that there are other city buildings that are buildings and lots that are just sitting there that haven't been touched. So this asset mapping, are you just going to have a general condition of blighted and unoccupied?
So we have that general condition right now on the forward-facing site. What this system is truly designed to do is, once you have all of your layers in and it can really see, all right, this roof is 10 years old, this system is, the HVAC is 15 years old and it's being regularly maintained as scheduled, the system actually gives each component inside the building a grade. And we're able to create a weighted score for the building itself based off of all of the components. So we'll know when there's an issue, we'll be able to see what its condition is based off of the work orders that will be flowing in on it, how old the systems inside of it are. We are working with the software company, as well as a couple of other cities that have already instituted this, just because they're around the country. Our roofs are a lot more important than roofs in Arizona, just because we deal with a lot more rain. We don't have to worry about snow as much, except for this year. So the Minnesota examples, so we're taking the metrics that they set up to determine a score for a building, and that is what we are going to create a score that really deals with our heat, humidity, and our climate here.
But I think the short answer is that
Thank you.
the intention is to have all of the city-owned properties inside of this system.
Including empty lots that are city-owned.
Eventually, that's the plan to get there.
Yes.
Okay, and then
Lots and fields are part of phase 3, which is just kicking off with the company.
So I also have a question this raises another question. Bruce Riley was talking about the crime lab.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's been some mold intrusion, some HVAC issues, et cetera. This building is basically brand new.
3 years old. It's 3 years old.
Right. my understanding is that you all looked at some warranty information. Will this asset tracking management system allow you to immediately pull warranties and look at the builders who fabricated the building so that we can go after these
Absolutely.
contractors who have constructed a faulty building?
Yes, and so, like I said, right now we have the shells. As we get the layers in, we'll be able to take from the final docs, you'll be able to add in on the HVAC system, here's where the warranty information is, along with scheduling in all of the maintenance that's required by that warranty so that you can show, here's who did it, on what day, how long it took them, here's the parts and equipment they used for it. All of that can be tracked inside the system. It can be pre-set up. It can be pre-assigned. If for some reason they don't do it on the Tuesday it's scheduled, you drag and you drop it to Wednesday, and then it's on my maintenance team's work order for the next day.
So there will be a notification set up so that your department can say, hey, we need to contact XYZ manufacturer for scheduled warranty maintenance.
Correct. And, you know, with MTC coming to completion, it's going to basically be the first building that we get fully into the system. So because they've actually digitized some of the layers for us, the plan is to really truly work with the implementation team to get that building fully in from jump. It's a little harder. We do have 500 buildings, so trying to capture all of them and going back through them all, this is going to be an effort to get this in, which is why we're trying to take it layer by layer to get the data in. You know, roofs was important because we've just replaced 15 of them this year on buildings. So we want to capture that work, get that warranty detail information. So there's a solid game plan that lines up so that we can have a full maintenance history on, you can look at it at the building as a whole, you could look at it on a window or a light fixture, how many times you've changed bulbs in it.
Okay.
We've just got to build it out, and that takes time.
What is your timeline to get this all mapped?
Like I said, we are currently looking to get 4 layers in this year. Without, you know, it could be sped up with contractors to help identify and map, but that's really not currently a next year thing.
Councilmember Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. I know commercial buildings are rated. They use a rating system for commercial buildings. Is there a system that they use for municipal properties or government buildings where they rate them in terms of where they were, where they are, and operational?
So we currently rate the city buildings that are out on NOLA.gov. We rate them in accordance with the ordinance that was passed by council.
Okay.
So we follow that ordinance that's there and try to rate them as best as we can determine it.
And they're rated based on what?
I believe those were they basically came from code enforcement rulings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the ordinance that we passed, it was, you know, obviously a lot of items dealing with condition of the building, you know, how old the building, whether it was a building or just an empty lot. And really one of the reasons why we wanted to have this be so public facing and hopefully had this done a while back was so that we can really start pushing to put these buildings back into commerce. So often people are constantly, you know, saying, hey, what buildings are available? You know, what could potentially go up for auction? And we needed that readily available database with building conditions on them so that people could understand like what was available.
Yes, and we've, like I said, we put that on NOLA.gov. As this system gets implemented, I think that we'll be able to give a better grading scale. And when that time comes and we listen to what other people have done and how they've rated, you know, the quality of the roof versus obviously HVAC systems is going to be higher ranked here than up north. So once we come up with a way to create different building scores, I think at that point we would be coming to the council to ask to have the current ordinance in place amended to reflect the system. So there would be some discussion, of course, with y'all about why we want to rate the buildings in this manner.
Yeah, well, commercial property gets its rating based on market value, and especially if it's vacant or potentially operational, people want to invest in a better rated building. So I was just really asking in terms of how do we begin to use those ratings to market those?
So if we're going to look at a market value rating system, then we would really truthfully have to hire appraisers.
Okay.
And while we are routing a contract for appraisers, it's really just a preposition to have in place for when there, for when an action needs to occur. I don't think that we really have the budget in the department to perform that assessment across the board at all facilities.
And you can say you can go on a city website and get an indication or a description of the rating that you've placed on all municipal property.
Yes, so if you, on NOLA.gov, if you go to data maps and apps, and if you scroll down to the bottom of that section, there's a property viewer dashboard, and in it, it has all of the city properties that we've identified. In a lot of cases, it'll say who the managing partner is, and then it has a grade on it based off of the ordinance.
And why do we have so many municipal properties, in line with Councilmember Harris's comment, that were just done in the last 10 years that seem to be falling apart? Our systems don't operate within those properties, and contractors have made millions of dollars, but the cities and the public is left with the bill. And it seems like time and time again, we have a municipal property, or we've invested in a property for a part of municipal government that needs to be renovated, restored, or replaced. It's kind of like our streets. And I always tell people, I used to not be a conspiracy theorist because I thought OJ did it, right? But it seems like now that when you look at certain systems, that it's like streets in other parishes seems to last longer than the ones in our parish, and or if that's just me. So what's the difference? And so why is a 3-year-old facility that we spent millions of dollars on now needs millions of dollars to make it operable?
It's hard to say in all cases. In that case, there does look to be that it does appear that we got some shoddy equipment in this, and we are working with capital projects and the law department specifically on the crime lab, working through trying to get all of the information that the law department needs in order to be able to fully request a response on it.
And that means, as Councilmember Harris said, going after and so why wouldn't we be able to do that already? And why wouldn't we have, okay.
We have identified we've identified the issue because it came to us.
Okay.
As we looked through and saw, to give an example, the HVAC system failed after 3 years. There is no reason that HVAC system should have failed. So we are working with capital, we are working with the law department, we are putting together, it's resulted in a whole host of other issues, as in the mold and some others.
Yeah,
And so we are trying to comprehensively do a review on that entire new facility, find out where the issues occurred and why did these issues occur. Part of my belief, if I had to take a guess, and this is just a belief, is that a lot of the mechanical components were built during COVID. I have a feeling that a lot of stuff was rush shipped and the proper QA/QC was not done on the back end before it got to us, because it was better for companies to get things out the door and stay in business than it was to, remanufacture all of the expansion valves because their design had a flaw.
And then last question, and this could just be me, but on the second floor, there's always conversation, seasonal conversation. In this building, why does it seem like the air condition works in the winter and the heating system works in the summer?
So the outside skin units on this building, which are designed to turn around and move everything through, have not functioned completely as designed for years. And the repair cost far exceeds property management's budget.
Okay.
All right, Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, I think we could save a lot of money on air conditioning right now because it's freezing up here, just FYI. I do have questions about the online dashboard. It's not mobile friendly. I'm looking at it right now to try to look at some properties, so that's just a comment. The other thing is that according to the dashboard, we own 84 unoccupied properties and 373 vacant parcels. Is there any plan in place? I know for the 2nd District Police Station, that's gone to NOBIC to sell. Are there any other plans for these 84, I guess 83 unoccupied buildings and the 373 vacant parcels?
It's really on a case-by-case basis. Some of these buildings are being looked at for renovation. I'd have to actually look at the property viewer and can do that with you so that we can go through. Some of these may not actually be managed by us. They may, in fact, be managed by NORA. We've tried to, or NOBC. We've tried to capture a full, the full breadth of the city's assets. With one exception I want to make note of, we don't deal with all of the different properties that come in and out on sheriff's sale. There's just too much every month. And so that's not really a long-term holding of the city, so it's not tracked by us. But other divisions do manage some of these properties, so really it's a case-by-case, question-by-question, what is the issue for this? In some cases, we may have redevelopment plans. In other cases, we're looking at liquidation at other cases, but usually before we do any liquidation, we definitely talk to the council person in that district to make sure that they're fine with liquidating. Others, we're in renovation. Sophie Gumbel's RFP closes tomorrow. I do not know the time.
I'm very aware. I'm very aware.
I do
I'm
not
excited.
know the time, but you can check the purchasing website for that specifically. Cone of Silence will just.
I mean, I think the point is, Trey, and we've all made it at some different point in time, is that we have to be good stewards of property as a city and make sure that the lots aren't overgrown, that they're maintained. I know we've had issues in my district with some homeless folks on city-owned lots that we've tried to mitigate. These properties can be put back in commerce, whether or not we're the owner of the lot for a long-term lease, or if we sell them to a responsible person who's going to get these properties back into commerce. And that's something that I'll be looking for going forward into the next term.
Yes.
Right. Anybody else? Do you have anything else to present on property management?
Sorry, I love property.
I have page one.
I know. But
I have one more question.
I have taken a lot of time, and I think we've kind of thoroughly covered it.
I guess, look, I think seeing like the numbers would be good, Trey. I don't want to stop you from doing that.
So I do want to sort of point out, this 30% reduction will obviously impact us. The 30% does include the cost of the rents that we pay for city buildings. That's about $4 million that we pay to rent across the street and at about 7 other places. So the 30% hit comes off of that, but if I'm required to pay the rent to keep people in their offices, I'm really looking at a 47% cut to my operating budget. And when you throw in the cost on janitorial, we're gonna really be down to having enough money for a box of screws.
All right, sorry, Councilmember Morrell caught my attention. I'll be honest, I was the kid in class not paying attention to the teacher for a second. Angela, you have a comment. 2 minutes.
So I just wanted to use this opportunity, good morning to you all again. I just wanted to use this opportunity to name once again something that was named yesterday and also named in the last budget season, is that we need a designated fleet of people centrally managed when it comes to HVAC. there's a lot of concern about a lack of a schedule management plan around that. And we have proactively been talking about various buildings that we've had to fight to get back open after they've been closed temporarily, sometimes up to 8 months, because of HVAC issues. And so we're asking who is ultimately responsible for making the determination to put that into place.
Well, I think the asset management system will probably help property management to identify those HVAC issues in real time. So as that process becomes online, they'll have more visibility of those HVAC issues in real time to be able to provide repairs.
And when you say they, are you talking about somebody who's been contracted to do the service or someone in-house?
We have trades contractors and we have in-house engineers, but I'll let Trey elaborate on that.
Yeah, so there's sort of two things on that. Depending on the facility, while property management has an oversight of all city facilities, certain departments actually handle their own maintenance and repairs. So NORD, the public libraries, as well as the JJIC all handle the maintenance of their facilities, though we do work with them and assist Larry and Edgar on a regular basis by supporting them with the contracts we have in place.
Okay, just real quick, if I can get a little point of privilege, I promise, real quick. So that's an example. There are an overwhelming public libraries, and we are fully aware that they do have people who attend to the buildings. But for example, the public library in Central City is in a facility owned by the city, and we have had issues in the past, and we're hoping that we won't have any issues in the future. So we're trying to be proactive about that. It's not only having someone designated, but it's what is the actual schedule management plan to make sure that people are checking on the things proactively and not waiting until they're neglected to then try to clean it up and then try to call somebody in to repair. It's like this proactive engagement that we're looking for, and I'm wondering if you could just speak to that real quick.
Yeah, real quick. So there is actually an engineer based at that facility.
We're aware.
Who follows the complete maintenance plan, changing everything out like he's supposed to. That system had a failure. It has virtually been rebuilt at this point in time. So pretty much the only thing that's original at this point is the shell. And that's why it's now functioning again.
So with it being rebuilt, what you're saying then is that there's a schedule work management plan to ensure that it does not go neglected.
Yes, there's a log book. They turn around and log. There is a maintenance plan designed by our chief engineer so that that system is regularly taken care of, regularly maintained. When an issue occurs, we turn around and we hot shot out our contractors to work on it. So yes.
So who checks the logbook? Huh? When there's loggings in the book, who checks that?
Angela,
I just want to.
No. You are way over your time. So this is the last question.
Yes, this is it.
All right.
Who checks the logbook?
And then we can do this offline. Thank you.
The chief engineer does.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Katzen.
Good morning, Nellie Katzen with the Committee for a Better New Orleans and the Big Easy Budget Coalition. I had a question that's specific to this department and these presentations, but it's something I'm seeing throughout the budget. In the executive budget address, the mayor said there was a 30% cut to all departments, but that's not actually what we're seeing in the budget book. So on this slide, where we're seeing a 30% reduction, the budget book has a 13% reduction for the department, and I'm not seeing these numbers anywhere. Where can I find these numbers?
The 30% reduction is for the other operating, not for personnel. So the combined percent you're talking about is personnel and other operating together.
Okay, but these numbers still don't match, right? The adopted 2025 in the budget book was 11,529, and the proposed was 8,320.
Are you looking at just general funds or all funds for the department?
I'm looking at other operating, all funds.
This is just for general funds on his slide.
I understand. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, property management, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Department of Public Works, up next. I know, you don't argue with people, look how fast you can go. Public Works, then resilience and sustainability and sanitation around out. So we'll cede the floor to Public Works. All right, whenever you guys are ready.
Good morning.
Morning.
We'll start with our presentation that includes the 2026 department goals. We divided it by the divisions of the department. We'll start with asset management. So this department is, this program is supervised by our continuous improvement staff. We've been able to hire the manager of that section, but we also have 4 additional employees that are approved, and we hope to get those budgeted. As we move into 2026, asset management, the drainage system, and the streetlight system have both been fully uploaded into asset management and are being used by our staff for maintenance routines as well as capital improvements, tracking. And so now this year, we're getting this traffic regulatory signs and street names signs uploaded into the program, as well as the traffic signals. What we hope for 2026 is to engage and train our signal shop and sign shop staff in order to do like the maintenance division staff, which is using the tablets and routing and the repairs and replacements per the program, which has turned out to be a much more efficient routing, and it allows us to increase productivity. We also have a new 311 system that has been purchased. It's C-Click Fix. It's being uploaded into the system as well. It will fully engage with asset management. We expect that all of that will be online and used by the public by March of 2026. And of course, our goal would be to budget and to fill the approved positions that are associated with asset management. For traffic engineering,
Rick, I'm going to stop you for a second because I have a couple questions. First is, like, given the city's budget issues, you know, how are we paying our bills? I mean, like, do you guys have enough cash on hand to get things paid as they timely come in from vendors?
You're talking about anyone in specific?
Yeah, whatever you get a bill, let's just take the lighting contract. Like, you know, the vendor sends us the invoice, there's enough money to pay those people timely, there's cash on hand. And I'm not saying DPW, I'm saying the city, obviously.
Yes, with the lighting, there was an issue with assignments that had been made through our program manager, contracted program manager, and it created a deficit I guess you would say, for that particular program. However, working with the capital budget, Kyle Homan, we were able to secure funds, and we have enough now for the street lighting system to pay back everything that's owed, and that process is taking place right now, and will keep us funded through the end of '25.
Yeah, I guess really though, and I appreciate that explanation, but my question is less about the lights themselves and about paying vendors. I mean, there's cash flow sufficient from the general fund to pay vendors timely.
Up until this point, yeah, we haven't had any problems, and I don't see anything going forward. We have been,
So I also think it also depends on, to your point, the funding source, right? And so if it's a capital expenditure, we've been doing well in terms of advancing the general fund for those expenditures. The JIRR generates between $10 to $15 million of expenditures per month.
Right.
So the burn rate is quite high on the general fund. And so we receive advances from GOSEP. The last advance received was $120 million, and we use that to advance the general fund to pay for the JIRR expenditures. We have exhausted the previous advance, and we currently have a new advance request that is sitting with GOSEP right now that we're waiting for approval for. And so that is the funding stream, because DPW does a lot of work, but the majority of the flow of expenditures is because of the roads program. And so we're utilizing those advances to keep the cash flow going and keep vendors paid, to keep the projects going.
Lenitra, to that point, like, is there a way to and I realize, like, this is bureaucracy, okay? But is there a way to streamline that a little bit so the cash flow is easier for the city, and that we're, sort of like, all right, we know we're getting ready to run out of money, just pick a date, at the end of April, so the request is made in February, so at the beginning of May, the money hits?
So the answer to that is yes and no.
Okay.
So I do anticipate that when I submit the advance request to GOSEP. However, they have to go through a reconciliation process of the previous expenditures that we've submitted. So we have to wait for them to reconcile and to say, we're good with the expenditures that you've provided to us. And then they go through their own internal GOSEP finance process to release the funds to us. Typically, that process takes about 4 to 6 weeks. So sometimes it does create some cash flow issues for us.
Right.
But, we have a really good working relationship with GOSEP, and so they try to minimize that time frame as much as possible.
And look, whatever we can do to minimize that, I mean, I realize y'all are trying, but I want
Yeah, and if I could, Councilman, to add to Lenitra, we've been really fortunate because these cash advances, kind of unheard of, most of the federal grants are reimbursable grants. So you front the money, pay invoice, get reimbursed. We've had the luxury over the period of years, JIRR, because of the single settlement, to get the advances to move the work. But like I mentioned yesterday, today I had a meeting with the Director of Finance. I have those meetings every morning at 8:30. On Friday, we have a cash management meeting to where we look at all our responsibilities that we have to pay out a couple weeks out and make sure we've got enough cash to meet those priorities as we move through the week. We'll continue to do this into the new administration. So this is a process I put in place when I came on board to make sure we pay our invoices on time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barrett, and thank you, Lenitra, too. When it comes to tracking, Councilmember Moreno kind of mentioned this yesterday, is there AI in place that tracks 311 and emails? So in other words, hey, we want to respond to an email about a pothole, within 10 days, and then we hope to fill it, pick a date, 75 days. Is there anything that's sort of doing that?
Not that I'm aware, no.
Okay.
It's up to us, manpower,
Yeah.
going through the emails and forwarding where necessary.
Yeah, I mean, Brandy, I think one of the things we should talk about is, and again, I'm leaving, so it's other people have to, but it would seem like using AI to aggregate that data, and so that way it generates something, on a weekly basis for DPW in particular, to say, hey, it's been 30 days since this request, here it is in the queue, because look, we're all human and things fall through cracks or something. I think the biggest thing is you have emergencies, and so you tend to triage those first. So how we're consistently raising the regular maintenance so people can monitor those.
And I think we can filter that request into the work that Kim LaGrew is doing in ITI to see if that can help multiple areas of the city.
Great. And then my last question, Rick, is Angela, raised the issue. I've been looking on Roadwork website, and in fairness, I asked about this before the hearing. I'm having trouble finding where we could locate who the project managers are for the city and for the engineers on that website for JR work. Like, that is an ordinance now, so it's not again, I'm not trying to be pejorative, but it's the law, so where is it so we can direct it to the public?
We just went and checked it after the earlier question. If you go to Roadwork and you zoom down into a particular block, you can click on that particular block, and then the project sheet will come up. And in that, it identifies the project manager as well as the contractor and consulting engineer.
All right, I appreciate that, but I guess, and look, I missed it. I would just request, like, we find another way to kind of make it a little bit easier to search too.
And maybe we can put some instructions on the website.
Great.
So that they need to put an address in or a block number in order
Exactly.
to access the information.
Perfect.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Councilmember.
Yes, Councilmember Harris.
So on that vein, we did pass an ordinance, which again is the law, section 146-37, neighborhood street closure notice required, which requires you all to distribute notice when you're going to close a street, include the applicant's contact information, including first and last name, address, telephone number, blah, 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 blah. This has not been implemented at all on any of the projects, and specifically I'm thinking of the Camp Street project, around Magazine Street. There are other areas right now that are closed where there's been no notice to neighbors, number one, and no posting of information on how to get in contact with you. So you are not in compliance with this law that we passed, 146-37. My question is, when will you become when will you become compliant with this law? And do you need additional funds to do so, or what's the holdup?
No.
Are you unaware of the law?
No, I'm aware of the law. The communications group is doing a good job with notifying people. If, on the closure on Magazine, I'm not sure the spread of the area where the notifications are going, but I know that it's going at a minimum to the affected blocks.
Okay, we might need to look at expanding the zone of impact because not all of the folks know, and I'm also thinking about the road closure and work around, this is really sewer and water board, but around McGee that's happening right now where there's sidewalks caving in, people had no notice, and then all of a sudden the street is open. So both you and sewer and water board need to come into compliance with this law.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Rick, we let you get all the way to slide 3, so you're doing great.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll move through traffic engineering. Well, like I said, number one, hire a qualified chief traffic engineer. We have filled out the hiring request form. It was approved, so we're moving now to reviewing the candidates that are on the current civil service register. We want to reduce the backlog of warrant and analysis requests, as well as the review periods for traffic related permits. We're using the contracted traffic engineers in order to expedite some of these things and get these warrants and permits out on the street as quickly as possible. We continue to request to hire qualified staff for the sign and signal shops so that we can man them properly. As you know, they're both understaffed right now, and we need a lot more qualified. We have had a job study for the traffic signal shop, and it was approved. There are several positions in there that includes additional funding requirements for the salaries, and we hope to have all of that budgeted as well. We've had issues with the existing trailers, post-Katrina trailers at the sign and signal shop on Lafitte Street. We have been able to secure new trailers. They've located on the maintenance division campus right now. We're working with property management. We have the internet connected. Power will be connected this evening. Sewer is connected, and the water, it will be connected any day now. At that point, we'll be able to start moving all the equipment and manpower from Lafitte Street over to the maintenance division. And eventually, we have a garage that is being used for court document storage on the maintenance division site, and the goal is to find other places for that document storage and to renovate that building into the permanent location of the sign and signal shop. This will allow us to streamline efforts among the maintenance division and these shops, and assist with management as well. And of course, our goal is to reduce the 311 backlog using asset management and training the sign and signal shop staffs in order to do that. Page 3. Engineering. Our division will continue to manage the bond program. We still have some money left in the 2024, and those projects are underway now. They'll manage both design and construction as it proceeds. We do hope to hire additional staff. Obviously, we're anticipating the November 15th election, and hopefully the the bond propositions are approved by the public, and we can move into securing engineering firms for design, and eventually moving into construction and create that program as it's much needed for the city. Maintenance will continue to reassign and train staff now that we're fully separated from the drainage cleaning. We've increased asphalt patching beyond potholing. Our next goal is to get back to doing concrete sidewalks as well as concrete curb. We also will upgrade our ditching abilities and shoulder regrading, as well as clearing and grubbing rights of way where they're not being maintained by the adjacent property owners. Of course, all of this would be in an effort to reduce 311 backlog, and it will take additional staff. I think that's been well documented. Obviously, the 2026 budget issues may be a problem with that, but hopefully there will be a way for us to increase that staff and actually get more work done in-house. We also are working with the city-selected union for our employees, and we'll continue working with union leadership to assist us in promoting good work habits among the staff. The Ground Transportation Bureau, again, this is a revenue generating operation. It manages the for-hire vehicles permitting process as well as inspection process. We need additional staff to work within the permit group. We do have some requests in through the hiring freeze as well as through next year budget, and for our inspection staff. Our long-term goal is to get all of the GTB staff located in one place. The old brake tag station on Gentilly Road has been identified as the location for that. All the inspections for the for-hire vehicles will be able to take place there, as well as the permitting process, and it will be easily accessible by the public, and all of the staff will be together and they'll be able to coordinate among themselves. For the parking administration, we extended the existing meter and zone management contract for one more year, and in an effort just to keep it going, but we do plan to advertise and rewrite that contract in a way that we'll be able to secure a vendor in the long term to manage that system, including the payment processing and vehicle retrieval services. We hope to hire qualified staff to continue enforcement that's starting with the PEOs all the way up through supervisors, and including expand the towing and management and administration. And of course, by equipment associated with getting all of those people out in the field.
Rick, can I just ask this? Where are we, and I mean collectively, we, not just DPW, on moving some of that parking administration to NOPD?
That has been withdrawn by NOPD for the, from the Civil Service Commission review. So at this point, parking and GTB are a part of the Department of Public Works.
Thank you for letting me know. We'll have to have a little conversation with Mr. Pagne. Thank you.
All right. All right, and so the next couple of slides are for the existing and proposed positions for 2025 and 2026. So as you can see, the proposed positions are a reduction in staff by 6 people. Obviously, that will put a strain on the department and its ability to respond to 311 complaints as well as ordinary operations. Moving forward with the budget summary and budget request. This first page is for the general fund. We do have an increase in personnel services. That's a result of, I guess, our request for the chief traffic engineer position, as well as moving some of the unclassified staff over to the classified service that would be paid for by the general fund.
That also includes just shy of $600,000 for overtime as well. So we have some overtime built into DPW. It's one of the other departments.
Okay. Next page is the non-general fund page. As you can see, both are taking cuts, both for personal services as well as operating cost.
Councilmember Harris.
Going back to overtime, so we're budgeting 541, 430 for overtime, but cutting 6 positions. What is the cost of the 6 positions that you are cutting?
We didn't cut them, so that's just based upon, we didn't go in and cut anyone
I
out.
understand.
So it was based upon what was actually pulled out of ADP at the time of the budget portal. So I would have to do a one-by-one app or look at different employees. It could be longevity differences that make up the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the general question that I have. I mean, we're paying all this money for overtime when we could just be employing more people, probably at a lesser cost than the
And so
overtime.
sometimes the increase could be for a salary position that came in, which does not receive overtime, and the overtime is only paid to our hourly employees. So we have to look at analysis of each department to be able to provide specifics for that.
Can you provide that information to us? Thank you.
I do want to comment, because we received a question prior to this about the non-general fund appropriation. So DPW is not being defunded for this. This is the money that was generally IMF funding that goes to Sewage and Water Board. It's just moved to a CAO miscellaneous code because DPW has asked not to oversee the funding anymore, and our office will be doing the payments. The same for indigent defender funding, which is still in limbo right now, but the appropriation, should we be able to pay it next year, will also take place in CAO.
And Brandy, just give me a second to clarify that for everybody. So remember, as a result of the legislature passing legislation that consolidated drainage outside of DPW, now fully with Sewage and Water Board, part of the arrangement to give money to Sewage and Water Board was taking that portion of the fair share money that was in the infrastructure maintenance fund out of DPW's budget and putting it into Sewage and Water Board's budget instead. So this is what all of that reflects. So I just want to make sure there's clarity because I can understand the questions. I looked at it the first time too and was like, well, where is this money going? And that's the answer to it. All right.
When it doesn't have a home, it comes to our office.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Rick.
That Brandy's statement triggered something here. I skipped the streetlight section on the department goals, so I'd like to go back to page 3.
Sure.
The reason I bring that up is the IMF funds is what funded the program manager for the streetlight system. So without that funding, we've taken it in-house, and we're using asset management. All the streetlights are now a part of the asset management system. The program is working well. We're doing it with existing staff. But I would like to point out that long-term goals would be able to expand that staff a little bit so we could get more electrical expertise involved is so that we can identify the issues ourselves instead of relying on the contractor. We do intend to advertise an RFP for the master street light plan for citywide to determine where it's right, where it's wrong, where we're missing, and also to create an operations and maintenance plan, as well as, and this is very important, is to establish a permanent financing for the streetlight program. Right now, it uses department funds, and as you can see, it's being stretched, and we are not responsive as we could be, especially given the fact that at this point, using the bond funds, we're only good through the end of '25.
Rick, this is a point kind of Councilmember Harris made. If you brought more of those functions in-house, what would be the ultimate savings to the city? Do you have any analysis of that? So in other words, if you're bringing people and assessment in-house instead of relying on the contractors, what would be the savings to the city by doing that?
We'd have to do an analysis as far as the actual repair of the streetlights, but if we just look at the program management, that was a $1.9 million fee annually. We're probably spending about $600,000 for employee salaries and benefits. So we're saving $1.3 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think those, I mean, it's a point I made on Monday to the administration, is those type of things, I think, really I would ask that every department come, and remember, I was sort of asking, like, what are the solutions that you all have, the top 2 or 3 things that don't add money, that actually will save money long-term, or, processes that could be improved, including ourselves too. So if you could like put some pen to paper and try and do that analysis before we put the budget to bed, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you.
I wanted to weigh back in on one item from Councilmember Harris. So I'm looking at the positions chart. That is every single position, no matter what the funding is. And so the slide with the increase is only general fund. So for this year, there were some personnel who were previously paid under IMF funding who we had to move. We started transitioning over. That's part of the increase on top of the overtime. So it is some hourly employees as well. But I'll get you some exact numbers. But I wanted to point out that this is every employee. So maybe we can consider next year updating these slides to have the positions by general fund versus special funds or any other funds. So it seems a little bit better to compare those.
Yeah, that would be helpful. And I think too, I'm sorry to hijack this, but overtime, is it overtime for parking enforcement? Is it overtime because of special events and we're parking trucks? And
so we gave it to them for whatever need. So normally for us, it's the hourly employees doing holiday events like Mardi Gras. It's events when their department is called in to back up NOPD to secure areas and barriers or things like that, so that is our blue collar workers who are hourly paid. So that's what that money is for, those special events.
Yeah, I figured. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right now, we're only doing overtime on Saturdays on a regular basis, and then on an as needed for security for special events where we have to move barricades in or anything like that at the request of NOPD. And then the signal shop is always on call.
All right, so the signal shop folks and some of your folks are working at night in order to move the barriers, and so that's not incurring overtime, it's just their hours that they work? Is that?
No, the signal shop is if the traffic signals are knocked down, so there might be an accident, NOPD calls us, and then the signal shop employees have to go out there and retrieve whatever's necessary or reinstall it if it's possible during the day. That or daylight hours, I should say, not during the working day. So that is overtime for the signal shop. The security is for moving barriers and putting those in place are planned. So we'll get notified by NOPD 2, 3, 4 days in advance, and then we plan those activities.
You schedule accordingly, so people aren't, so you're not incurring overtime based on that scheduling?
Trying to avoid it. If it takes longer to get whatever needs to get in place, then we do it.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Okay, moving on to the budget impact. So obviously by the reduction in staff, that's going to affect the 311 responses. And I know they're not the best as it is, so this will affect our potholing and asphalt patching, ditching, regrading, as well as installation of the traffic signs and signal maintenance. Not emergency signal repairs, those will continue. And of course, when you do this, the staff is concerned about getting the job done as well as us. And when there's a struggle being responsive, it decreases morale. And that is something that we are experiencing now.
Councilmember Green.
I think that we could all, in general, tout the accomplishments that we have a little bit more. I understand that staff could be impacted by some of the changes and some of the additional time it takes to get things done. But I just want to emphasize to you, and I do this through a newsletter, and you see it every week, I emphasize what has been done. And I want you to emphasize that to staff, that they're not responsible for this deficit. They're not responsible for, what may be perceived as work not getting done. But let's be very deliberate about talking about when we get things done. Even in my district, Public Works has closed, now I'm going to just tell you, Public Works has closed out some projects. Celebrate it. Bring people out. Have some refreshments. Cut a ribbon or something like that. When we finish Ring Street, for example, nice street, it's just finished. I think that staff can also be rewarded by us celebrating the accomplishments, what has been done, and even bringing them out to see it. We started work in the Ninth Ward on some streets that hadn't seen work for many decades. Rick, we should have had a start, something. I don't know, you know what I'm getting to. At the end of the day, we can't get it all done. We're in a city of severe subsidence. We're in a city where tree roots go under streets, and they dismantle the streets. We chose a long time ago to have oak trees along major thoroughfares, and it causes problems all the time. But we resolve a lot of those issues. Let's talk about it more.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
We do have a department newsletter, so we have begun that, and we're putting it out there as well.
But even when I see you at events, you're modest about those events. Talk about the successes when you start off. You were just recently at a meeting a couple of meetings that I attended.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yes.
Let the staffs hear you. Talk about it. The newsletter is fine, but when you go to a community meeting, talk about the streets that got finished. Talk about the work that got finished in their particular communities. I think people will feel better that even though things may take a little bit longer, we're still moving in the right direction.
Yes, will do.
You can hire Councilmember Green as your glazer in chief. He will be ready.
I see it. I drive. I got to promote what's really going on. Okay.
All right.
He's always been a friend to us.
Yes. All right.
Moving on, the reduction in other operating funding, that will affect the contracts that we have out there, including the sidewalk contracts, ditching, the pavement repairs. All of those will be affected, which then again will affect 311 backlog. And then the last slide is recommendations from the department that may improve things without additional cost. And one of the things that we thought about was using our staff, administrative staff in some of the other divisions to help with, in particular, like the Ground Transportation Bureau in their revenue producing operations such as the permits. The staff, they are already engaged in administrative ways and understand a lot of the processes, and I think that they could be trained, even if they're just working part-time, they could provide some extra help. That's it for
That's a
DPW.
good point that you brought up, Rick, and that's what we've done in the CAO's office as well, is to utilize resources in the department, cross-functioning employees who can assist in other areas.
Great. Yeah, that pendulum staffing is important. Yep. All right, I have 3 comment cards. Nellie Katzen, Angela Kinlaw, and Jesse Perkins. Nellie?
Hi, Nellie Katzen, 1242 St. Roch, with the Committee for a Better New Orleans and the Big Easy Budget Coalition. It will be no surprise to anyone in the room that streets and infrastructure are a major concern of residents. It's something that we hear all the time out in our communities. It's something that I know you all have talked about and have made a priority as in your roles, both as staffers on the DPW side and as council members, engaging with residents all the time. And in the Big Easy Budget Coalition's interview with residents in our survey, infrastructure was a top priority. In the mayor's survey that was conducted as a part of this budget process, infrastructure was a top priority. And we're looking at a budget that cuts the Department of Public Works by 52%. We have only $1 million for right-of-way improvements. We have $0 in the budget for sidewalks. I don't know how we're going to even start to solve these problems with these budget numbers being so low. I'm encouraged to see $2 million in the budget for green infrastructure. That's also been an expressed priority of residents, but the reductions that the DPW team are saying are going to happen as a result of these cuts are not acceptable for residents. The fact that they're going to call 311 and have their work requests ignored is not acceptable. It's going to further degrade trust, further reduce morale, and create this negative feedback loop of dysfunction. The people deserve better. I'm asking for you all to really consider reducing these cuts and protecting this work that really needs to happen, both for residents, for businesses, and for vulnerable people in the city. We offer our support in making those changes and looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
So Nellie, can I just ask this, like, does that mean CB&O supports the mayor's revenue increases?
Mm-hmm. My board meets next week, so I can't make a statement on
Yeah, I mean,
where we're at on that. But I think you and I have talked, and the Big Easy Budget I've been party to the Big Easy Budget Coalition's meetings with your office around finding revenue, and I'm preparing a memo actually this week, hoping to get it to you before the end of the month on other places where we might be able to identify revenue sources for these. And I know it is y'all's Herculean task of identifying where the money needs to go and where it needs to come from. I'm asking that this doesn't fall through the cracks.
I understand, but again, the hard part for us is I've got every agency telling me that. And so, and people who are defending / shilling for other ones. So you pointed out a problem. We all know the problem. What I'm asking for CB&O MAC is what's the solution? So that would be the most helpful thing. Councilmember Green?
I remember that when the assessments came out and they were higher, that many members of the advocacy community came to the city council and said, we can't increase taxes. Don't roll forward the millage because it would be too much of a burden with the insurance requirements, with the new potential increases in taxes. And the city council made a very, very courageous decision some time ago to not take advantage of an opportunity to roll forward a millage. I think that part of what we're seeing is the effects of that. And look, at the end of the day, it kept more money in the community, and there are some benefits in that respect. But I am going to be one to ask a definitive statement from those who want to see us spend more. Where will it come from? Where will it come from? We didn't increase taxes. At the end of the day, we're losing federal revenues because of everything that people can see on a federal level. Where will it come from? I'm looking forward to those answers.
I look forward to having a conversation with each of your offices. I know the coalition is working on this report on other ideas for where to find revenue, but really need to underline that despite that there are other issues that are being brought by residents and advocates alike, this was the top issue. Infrastructure and housing are the top issues that everyone is saying and has been saying for decades needs to be spent. And so wherever we find the revenue, this is one of the areas we really need to see it spent.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say something my colleagues said. They all got reelected. Like, I think everybody knows what the top issues are. The question is, how do we solve for X? And that's all that I think we're all asking for is, like, we all can identify problems. That's the easiest thing to do in the world. The harder thing is to identify solutions. And I also, let me be very clear, I wholeheartedly agree with you that the first place we ought to look is existing revenue sources and either what's being under-collected, miscollected, or ways that we can drill down harder. I see Joe Threat coming up here right now. But at the end of the day, like, I know what I think they are, but we need to work in tandem on that. And then I'm also saying that as part of that, the mayor has set forth priorities. And so I'm asking community members what they think those priorities are.
Right,
Mr. Threat
and I think
Councilmember
that, hey,
Harris.
Nellie, I think that right now, I just want everybody to understand that once I took over to September, the 30% cut across the board operating is a stopgap. Stop the bleeding. We wanted to stop it right now. Not to say that at the period of time right now, we're going into a transition of a new administration. We've got to give the new administration opportunity to say, hey, how are we going to generate more revenue? We put plans forward to the council, all the revenue generating opportunities. I heard from the council and the mayor that they didn't want layoffs or furloughs. So that's revenue right there. So it's a stopgap. When we look at Department of Public Works and the FEMA program, we're coming in where some of those projects are coming in under budget, and we're going to push that savings out to other neighborhoods. You're going to continue to see construction, sidewalks and right-of-way all across the city. But we've got to give the new administration to come in and say, hey, this is what we want to do. That 30% is not going to stay 30% all the way through 26. Okay, we're going to make some moves to make it better.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris. Wait, hang on, Councilmember Harris.
Well, the other thing, Nellie, while you're up there, is that I hope the Big Easy Budget Coalition will support the bond sale, right? I mean, that's money right there for infrastructure and housing, which, as you just said, are the two priorities of the citizens of the city of New Orleans. It's also our priority, let's be clear.
Of course.
That we support it. So I hope that as you are talking to your groups and folks who follow you, that you will support the bond sale.
Certainly something, we know that people need to see the money for these uses. This is one place where you'll see the money for these uses. I can speak for CBNO that we will be making sure people know about it and are voting to support funding for what they say they need. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Ms. Kinlaw, Mr. Perkins.
So just going on record as saying we have not made up our mind if we are yet in support of the bond, but things could change depending on how this budget season goes. So I just want to name that, it's really unfair to be hands-off about drainage, to talk about the transfer of the responsibility from DPW to Sewage and Water Board, but then be all the way hands-on when we're soliciting funds. So because we're in the 2025 year where the transfer has just recently happened, we're naming that we need minimally $25 to $40 million for drainage. So let's just go to 25 if it makes people feel more comfortable. We've been able to identify up to $7 to $10 million for drainage, and the difference right here can come in through prioritization. I'm not talking about future funds because I've been here since September 29th for the Revenue Estimating Conference. I'm talking about the current funds that are in possession of the city of New Orleans now. We are asking and demanding that two things happen. One, we want the water debt to be wiped out. And we know that there are some people who can afford that, who've been running away from paying because they've got millions of dollars. But we're talking about people who can barely make ends meet. And we also know, Mr. Threat and everybody else, that it is true that there was $10 million designated for the catch basin, and everybody says the $10 million was spent, but we know that there's still remaining money. That $10 million was not spent. So even if it's $100 million, we want that $100,000. We want that $100,000 to be reallocated for these purposes. We don't want any of those dollars and cents to be just kind of nonchalantly disregarded. So wiping out the water debt is possible, and we want the drainage piece to be contended with in this budget season. We want that to be a priority. Everything may not be able to be resolved, but drainage can be resolved.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Yeah, you have your 2 minutes. You can't, we don't see time anymore. Okay, well, Mr. Perkins, though, I just wanted, he had a card, so I just wanted to make sure he was heard if he wanted to be.
Jesse Perkins, resident of New Orleans. I was going to say something Mr. Drett kind of answered. He must have read my mind. It was going to be about the lighting and more concerning something that I actually caught on the news or saw on the news about street lighting, which I've been reporting in my neighborhood, and it's pretty spooky in my neighborhood. I mean, when I say spooky, it's very spooky. I'm a runner, and I run at night, and I'm worried about my safety. There's a lot of wildlife where I live at, right? And I'm not exaggerating either. You know, dogs on the loose, and, you know, it's so dark you can't even see. But I understand, you know, that they're only going to repair emergency stuff, that maybe, like you said, a pole knocked down, traffic light hit. But, I mean, Mr. Dredd, again, like I said, he kind of answered that question. They're trying to stop the bleeding, so there's no need in me beating on that drum, you know, any further. So, thank y'all.
No, we appreciate it. And I think, look, it always helps to have context from neighbors about what they're seeing in their neighborhoods or their communities. Appreciate it. All right, thank you very much for being here, y'all. Up next is ORS. Oh, Councilmember Tom, you're pushing, is that you, Councilmember Green? It says
Well,
Thomas.
Before Mr. Hathaway leaves, I just want to express my appreciation to Public Works. I know I say this all the time. The work that's being done on Johnny Jackson Boulevard and on 9th Ward Street, such as Gallier and the like, is greatly appreciated. We're talking about communities that I have prioritized because they've been so underserved. But it is good when you go to meetings, you go to churches, and people say, thank you. Finally, work is being done in our community. You're part of something that, in my opinion, is in somewhat, not historic, that gets overdone, but Johnny Jackson Boulevard hadn't been done forever. That's why you should have celebrated with a start. But let's celebrate with a completion of some of these jobs and tell people that there's a very deliberate effort to focus on communities that have been underserved, especially in my district. But thank you for the work that's being done. It's appreciated, and people see it.
Great.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, ORS, and then Department of Sanitation, close out for the day.
Sign in.
All right, good morning.
Morning. Well, thank you for the opportunity to present, council members. With me, I have Megan Williams, who's our newly promoted Urban Water Program Administrator, who's leading our work to consolidate the city's green infrastructure projects, as well as has taken over management of Lincoln Beach, as well as Dan Jatras, who leads our grant and contract work. I would say that 2025 obviously has been a difficult year for the country at large, and particularly for climate. But despite that, those headwinds, we're more committed than ever. From passing the benchmarking legislation, supporting local growers with our Urban Ag Working Group, hiring the city's first ever circular economy position to focus on improving waste diversion, completing our electric transportation roadmap, and growing our team to integrate the former SGI team, as well as expanding our outreach efforts under our external affairs team. I'm very, very proud of the progress we've made despite those challenges. Looking ahead to 2026, we have several ambitious goals. Administratively, we're aiming to hire our CPRG grant-funded positions to help us implement our $50 million award from EPA, 3 of which are being advertised right now. And for the new administration, it's important to start the process of updating our climate action plan for 2027, which is a requirement for the city's membership with C40 cities. This provides an opportunity for the mayor-elect to lay out a vision for how the city and our office can achieve our climate goals through a community-informed planning process. Under communications and outreach, we plan to publish a climate action and greenhouse gas inventory dashboard that provides the public with clear data on the city's progress towards our climate goals. Residents can expect it will look something like the municipal energy dashboard that our office published in June 2025 and shown here on the screen. We're on track to launch in 2026 a one-stop shop website and green energy campaign to provide guidance and resources for residents interested in lowering their energy bills. That effort is being funded by our EECGB Award Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant, and we're being assisted by Ragusa Consulting, who I know some of the council offices have worked with, as well as Bywater Branding, a local WBE firm. As part of our recycling grant, we have a robust education budget we'll use to improve residential recycling literacy and decrease contamination rates, and we're also looking to develop collateral for our outreach team to help plainly explain the types of green infrastructure installations, bioswales, rain gardens, et cetera, to residents. Regarding the federal infrastructure task force that Dan leads, we're setting a goal to add 2 awarded grants to match the really slow pace of funding opportunities from the Trump administration, and we continue to focus on the implementation and protection of our previously awarded grants. Lastly, we're working to establish the City Business Climate Alliance that explores ways to get the private sector capital more involved in climate initiatives as well. Under our energy work, we're setting a goal to achieve 70% or greater compliance in year one of our benchmarking ordinance, which is comparable to other cities' year 1 metrics. We're aiming to launch our Solar for All subsidies, which is $5,000 per household using our CPRG funds. These were targeted initially to be paired with the state's 156 Solar for All award as gap funding, and this year we had worked with the Louisiana Clean Energy Fund on a draft CEA to jointly administer these funds. However, with the EPA cancellation of the state award, we're reworking our program to hire a third-party administrator to vet and process the payments to qualified solar installers. We'll be continuing our community energy advisory program into a second year by recruiting another cohort of trusted community members we train to help residents access programs like the Council's Energy Smart program to help them find ways to reduce their utility bills. We did initially design this program to include the federal clean energy tax credits that were repealed, so there are less offerings, unfortunately, than we'd hoped, but there are several ways to reduce the energy burden for our most vulnerable community members. Finally, we'll be going out to bid shortly in the coming weeks for the city's first solar and battery installation and should have an RFP for a solar developer for the Ag Street site released by the end of the year, now that we've demolished all the homes and cleared the sites. Our transportation goals start with completing the city's comprehensive safety plan, which qualifies us to begin pursuing project funding from various federal, state, and local sources. And we'll also launch 2 rounds of our e-bike incentive program funded by the CPRG grant that the council approved yesterday at yesterday's GA meeting. And those same CPRG funds will also be used to expand the city's Blue Bike network with additional bikes in neighborhoods in 2026. One item that was discussed last year by you, Councilmember Harris, was the need for robust community engagement on CPRG Protected Bikeway project, which is underway. We've been building on the successful work that DPW did on Rampart Street to engage residents earlier in the design process, and we're working with our counterparts at DPW on a similar process for the 7 miles of protected bikeways downtown, as well as a broader campaign about how safety improvements like this benefit all roadway users. To cover our urban water and nature-based solutions, I'll turn it over to Megan.
Thanks, Greg. Under the Urban Water Program, we are aiming to complete 2 additional drainage studies, both of which are currently underway and are federally funded, one in the Upper Ninth Ward and the other in Algiers, both resulting in identifying gray and green infrastructure improvements in those areas. Additionally, we are looking to issue an RFP for a stormwater master plan. This is IDA HMGP funded. We've been working in conjunction with the Hazard Mitigation Office for the past year or so on this as well. Additionally, we are looking to break ground on phase 1 of Lincoln Beach and establish a governance structure with the community for the future maintenance and operation of the beach itself. We are also looking to issue the RFP for the Fleur-de-Lis design project. This was funded through the state RCIP CDBG program for both design and construction, and we'll be releasing the RFQ in 2026. And additionally, we are looking to advertise and award 7 construction projects for the Gentilly Resilience District projects and get them into construction and break ground in 2026. Additionally, under the nature-based solutions, we're looking to complete the citywide hazard mitigation, heat mitigation plan, which Greg will touch a little bit more on later. And additionally, looking to reestablish our Christmas tree program and collect 10,000 trees for coastal restoration, which will be placed in Bayou Sauvage. and issue an RFQ for the Bayou Bienvenue Coastal Restoration Design, which has been funded, the master planning process has been funded through NOAA and NIFWIF grants previously.
Hey, Megan, can you hang on 1 second? Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, when we talk about nature-based solutions, have you engaged at all with one of my favorite organizations, Glass Half Full, to determine whether or not we can use their recycled glass as sand for coastal restoration?
Yes, they have done several coastal restoration projects on their own, so there is a precedent for it. We would have to have additional conversations with them on the capacity that they would have to do the size of coastal restoration programs, but they have worked very closely with our office on several programs, so it would just be another conversation with them on the upcoming programs that we would have.
Great, and I think Matt Torrey's in the audience too, and I have questions for you about Glass Half Full and how we can maybe scale them in order to recycle the most recyclable item that we all use, which is glass. But I can ask you that when you come before us.
Cool. All right. So moving over to urban agriculture, our urban ag liaison, Grace, has been working with the Kellogg Foundation, who appears to be interested in funding us through GNOF on the city's first urban agricultural and food access plan to look at the policies, land access, and infrastructure that would be needed to better support urban growers in the city, and we hope to complete that the first year of that planning process. We'll also continue to convene quarterly working group meetings to hear from growers about their needs, as well as Grace is working on a comprehensive resource guide on city regulations for farm and gardens to build on some of the work she's done around water access and business development so far. For our waste diversion efforts, we obviously hope to launch some form of recycling expansion under our EPA Swiffer grant. The conversations between the council, haulers, sanitation, and ourselves are ongoing, and we continue to seek a compromise that allows us to retain the full amount of the 2 grants we received from EPA and the recycling partnership for this expansion. We have an RFP out right now to hire a firm to help us to write a solid waste master plan funded by that EPA grant, and are eager to get that planning process started next year. We'll look to keep expanding our Recycled initiative, although the scope of those efforts are going to likely be impacted by the city's contribution likely being lowered due to budget cuts or completely cut. And then finally, our new Circular Economy Program Manager, Chris Lang, he is going to establish a waste working group to ensure that the policies and infrastructures under his work are supported by key community members. So our staffing, you can see there, we have 7 staff funded by the general fund. I'll also just note that we have 13 other staff members that are that live within the PDU budget as well, because they're grant funded. Here you can see the proposed budget cuts, and I'll go into the impact of those cuts here in a minute. On the non-general fund, our budget remains the same. These are all federal grants that we've received, although I will note that we've spent down actively on many of our grants, so the amount that we're going to spend in 2026 is lower than what's up on the screen. In terms of the budget impact here, what would it be? First would be the ongoing heat mitigation plan that our office is working on with the Health Department and the Hazard Mitigation Office. Our consultant firm has completed 3 of the 6 tasks and is scheduling targeted focus groups for vulnerable populations for the end of this month. After that, there would be a draft recommendation plan put together and then a citywide public meeting after Mardi Gras to provide feedback on those recommendations. We estimate that about $175,000 out of the original $300,000 is needed to complete the plan in 2026. I know every office has critical needs, but given the growing health threat we face from extreme heat, this is a critical item for the city to keep moving forward. The next impact would be Recycled The first few iterations of this program relied really entirely on philanthropic funding, but the last 2 years has seen the city do our part to provide service along the route. It's not only diverted waste from our landfill, but it's spurred a growing movement among the crews to think about Mardi Gras' collective impact on our environment. This year's contribution would go towards expanding the number of recycling stations, as well as a sweep ahead of the cleaning crews to divert recyclable materials from the route. If the city can't provide funding, it's guaranteed that these efforts will have to be scaled back. Another impact would be maintenance, which can't be funded using bond funds. The city is required by the EPA and LDEQ to perform certain maintenance activities like grass cutting or well testing at brownfield sites like the Ag Street site or the former Recovery One landfill. Other departments like sanitation and DPW have funded these efforts previously. It's never been in our budget. But with their budgets likely becoming tighter, we risk liability with those regulating agencies for not performing our mandated activities. Security at Lincoln Beach is another item that can't be bond funded and has been paid by property management. We're estimating groundbreaking this summer. We could remove security services of the site, but as we said a number of times, the site is not yet safe for the public. And lastly, as I'm sure many departments have said, the pay reduction for unclassified employees is inequitable for office. We have both general funded and grant funded employees, and it's worth stating that while no one wants to take a pay cut, I don't think it's equitable to not have it evenly applied to employees just based on their funding source. Lastly, I know we received a request regarding how we can improve processes without additional costs. We've had $200,000 in general funds committed to grant writing this year. We obviously have some in-house capacity to do that. We did that in 2022 and 2023, and have a great track record. So with the limited number of grants coming out at the federal level, this is doable, and I think we can make it work. And with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Council members, any questions? All right, we will move on. Nellie Katzen, followed by Sage, followed by Angela Kinlaw.
Nellie Katzen, CBNO and the Big Easy Budget Coalition. I wanted to take an opportunity to thank the ORS team. You all have been, I've seen a ton of creativity and problem solving from this office. I had the pleasure of working with this office when IIJA initially passed to create opportunities for the city to go after what was at the time massive amounts of federal money for infrastructure and resilience. And I saw the way that this office grew in response to that. This is very much a challenging time for any sort of grant-funded office, and so I'm commending that work and saying that we stand with you, mostly. I would love to see H&H studies for more neighborhoods as a precursor to additional funding for drainage improvements and some of the innovative work that y'all are doing on green infrastructure and management. I know that's a challenge, and it's something that the people really want to see. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and we'll continue to support your office. Thanks.
Made some notes. And so I would like to see a line item for Lincoln Beach funds. We were at this budget meeting last year, and it was generally put out there. I'm a person living on receipts. I don't have to go search for that document, that information. Please, let's see a specific line item on Lincoln Beach alone, because we're looking to open phase 1 in quarter 1, 2027. We need to make sure that we have funds for hard costs and soft costs for the project, so that when we have expectations set for now for quarter 1, 2027 to open, all that is covered within the budget, including funding we have specific for it. The groundbreaking date, I saw that mentioned, you need to have a specific date. You know, we had a summer 2020, a summer opening supposed to happen this summer, but it didn't happen. And so right now we're paying for the security on the site, but we are actually denying access to the site for the people. And so while property management budget is going towards security, but property management never helped us to manage the project ourselves. We spent 5 years of community money and time and still never compensated for that. But property management going on security, I find that ironically wrong, and to deny access for the people is wrong as well with these dates being moved. Dates need to be real. It's like a haircut and envisioning the product to the timeline to the end and how to get the people out the chair. Once again, disparities exist in New Orleans East, including access to water. There are no H&H studies done in New Orleans East. To my knowledge, they have not been done, and we suffer in New Orleans East as well as these other places. So if H&H studies not done, you can look at the maps. No major green infrastructure projects have been done. Look at those maps. But because of me and the work I've done, the organization I work for, the partners, we're creating the New Orleans Community Water Plan because the city not creating one for us. And our areas are concerned with the embedded future bond requests. Other funds are being made for other projects, but ours are embedded in bond requests, and that's something that we have to pay for and get back. As far as the climate action goal, it's hard to see that when the city is purchasing vehicles that are gas guzzling and selling to Delta utility sales. Thank you.
Thank you, Sage. Angela Kinlaw.
Greetings to the Office of Resilience and Sustainability. I always get great enthusiasm when I hear anything about green infrastructure projects, so I just want to name that. I had to temper my enthusiasm a little bit, though, because I wanted to make a distinction, and these are just 3 inquiries, and maybe you could speak to them before you leave. As we've been looking at the $141 million federal resilient grant, I am trying to understand if your office is now taking over those projects and how to make a distinction between those projects and the other projects that are being innovated or coming through community. Knowing that that was 2016, 2017, we going into a 3rd administration since then, you can see why we have deep concern about that. And we don't want to see that money just randomly go back to the federal government, but we also don't want to see people make a mad dash to try to throw something together and it not meet the needs. So that's in advance of that. It's also understanding that that was supposed to help with drainage issues across the city with a particular focus on Gentilly and New Orleans East. And I don't really see New Orleans East projects in there. So I would ask you if you could just go back and look through there to see if there are some to bring it to our attention because we don't see them. And then the 3rd one is when it comes to the waste component with the launch of the residential recycling expansion program. Can you just speak to or say a little bit more about what the holdup is regarding that?
I'm going to let Megan talk a little bit about the Gentilly Resilience District, but I do want to mention the drainage studies, since I think all 3 speakers mentioned that the desire and need for drainage studies throughout the city, and we wholeheartedly share that goal. And in the bond proposition that's before voters, there is a line item for drainage studies citywide, and it would include New Orleans East, as well as some other cities that haven't had that level of investment yet, places like Algiers and Treme, things like that. So I'll let Megan answer the question.
Just to clarify with those 20 seconds I left up there, I'm not talking about studies. These are from 2016, 2017.
Right.
And there's a lot of money being spent on administrative costs, but we're not seeing the projects go through. So now they're coming to your department to carry them out. So we just want to make sure that there's some clarity around.
Yeah, absolutely. So to quickly answer, yes, our office in the last 4 months has now taken over management of the Gentilly Resilience District. We have not been managing the project directly before that. So yes, we are, and Megan has been newly promoted into the role to managing that team that is carrying forward those projects, and I'll let her speak to it.
Yeah, so as Greg said, as of June this year, we have integrated the formerly known as SGI team into the Urban Water Division in our office, which includes the Gentilly Resilience projects. I've been working with each of the project managers, meeting with each of them biweekly to make sure that we're meeting all of the goals necessary. And to Ms. Kinlaw's point, making sure that the plans that do go out to bid are comprehensive and holistic for the work that is needed, and that we're being as thorough as possible before we get to bid to ensure that we're spending every dime correctly once we put a shovel in the ground, which is why we're anticipating putting 7 projects out to bid, probably Q1 of next year. Most of the projects are fairly far along in their design process. We are just cleaning up some items and coordinating with our other agencies, being Sewage and Water Board, NORD, and our grant department, making sure that we've checked all the boxes and done everything necessary to meet the grant requirements.
Great, thank you. Seeing no other comments, you are free to go. Next up is Department of Sanitation.
Thank you very much.
How's it?
Oh, you got that.
Mr. Torrey, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Council. It's great to be here with you all again for another year for our budget. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak with you all. As always, I want to start first by just thanking the men and women of the Department of Sanitation, along with our curbside collection partners who work diligently to provide critical services to all neighborhoods each day. Despite the ongoing financial challenges that the city's dealing with, the Department of Sanitation has continued to effectively deliver core services in 2025. Just wanted to highlight some of the great work that the Department of Sanitation's field operations team has been able to accomplish so far this year. Cleared over 3,777 street miles of litter, mechanically swept over 13,000 street miles, cleared over 2,600 illegal dumping sites, including 37,000 waste tires from the public right-of-way, removed over 9,000 bandit signs, participated in 13 encampment cleanups, delivered over 2,000 recycling carts, and held 37 drop-off events, including 3 shred days, our annual household hazardous waste day, servicing over 10,000 residents.
Councilmember Thomas, you had a question? Okay.
Our city's curbside collection contractors continue to perform at an extraordinarily high level with missed collection requests at a historical low. It's worth noting that the level they are at now is down over 80% from the peak in 2022, and for all intensive purposes are non-existent, and hopefully to your offices as well. Did you want to ask your question? You want me to continue?
Yeah, I can ask them before I leave. Usually we the last one standing anyway. At what point do we get back to twice a week pickup? When do we do that?
So the city switched permanently to once a week trash collection as a result of the solicitation of new solid waste and recycling contracts that were issued in 2022 and 2024. So a strategic decision was made based on value, need, and service level to move to once a week, which the city demonstrated after Hurricane Ida that was sufficient for the majority of the city as far as collection levels. We've continued to provide once a week service at an extremely high level since we've moved to these new contracts. As I mentioned, miscollection complaints across the city are essentially non-existent. The city offers a second trash cart as well as a recycling cart for all households at no cost. So each household is eligible for 2 95-gallon trash carts as well as a 65-gallon recycling cart. Mm-hmm. City also, new contracts also provide for a variety of new equipment types that provides for that out-of-cart debris collection. So whether that's waste tires, bulky items, appliances, e-waste, all of those are seamlessly picked up with that once-a-week collection.
Some of what we heard is counter to that. I can tell you that there are more maggots now that appear on the garbage cans when they sit out for just once a week, and we hear that from neighbors and people around the community because a lot of what's put in the trash can are food products, and I can see it at my own house and with my neighbors. So how is that a healthy thing when we're seeing more maggots and more flies? And then the other thing is, and we're also hearing about more rodents because of once a week pickup. And then one of the proposals from the administration is an increase in the garbage pickup, but no talk about going back to twice a week, when I think the contractors are making 2.5, in many cases are 3 times more than the contracts that they replace.
Yeah, so I mean,
so how do we weigh the health issue? And then another thought is, some of the residents have asked, if you can't do twice yearly, then seasonal, especially when during crawfish and seafood season. And right now, you look at the profit of the garbage contracts, that some of them are twice, 2.5 times more than what they used to be.
When it comes to the health issues you described, I think residents certainly can take steps at their own households to mitigate maggots, flies, those types of things.
So you're going to charge the residents more. You want to increase their fee and their responsibility while the contractors make more money.
So I guess, do you want me to answer the health
No,
question?
yeah,
or do you want me
I'm
to answer that
sorry.
question?
I didn't mean to
So
cut you off.
Quickly on the health issue, residents need to make sure they're bagging their waste, which is not happening at every household and every neighborhood across the city.
Okay.
And they need to hold putrid waste and put it out as close to the collection day as possible, so households can keep that waste in their refrigerator and their freezers and put it out as close to the collection day as possible. And that's a best practice regardless of whether you have once a week or twice a
So
week collection.
keep their waste in their refrigerators and in their homes before they give it to the waste collector.
It's a common practice, Councilmember Thomas, when you have leftovers, to
Okay.
keep those in the refrigerator until trash day.
gonna
and
tell
put
that
it
to
out
my
on-
wife?
On trash day. Yes.
You tell my wife to keep her waste in the house. It's our, it's not just her.
But you're talking about waste that leads to maggots, which is food waste.
You know what happens to food if it sits in the refrigerator for far too long, and you know that it also decays in the freezer. That the freezer isn't any foolproof fact to stopping, especially meat products and certain foods from decaying.
Within a week's time frame, your
Within a
food
week?
is not going to decompose and rot in your refrigerator or your freezer, Councilmember Thomas.
Okay.
So you have a week. So in between that week, I recommend keeping that food waste in a climate-controlled situation and then putting out as close to your collection day as possible. But we're not seeing widespread issues of maggots and flies
Okay.
across the city. I think we would be hearing about that and we'd be seeing pictures of
So we're
that.
not seeing any swarms or any pestilence. We're not witnessing that.
I'm not aware of that, no.
So you're not aware of the fact that people are talking about more rodents because of once a week? And
Why
the fact-
would once a week be leading to more rodents?
I don't know. I'm.
Well, you just said it though.
That's what we're
I
hearing.
don't see the correlation between once a week and more rodents unless people are throwing waste on the ground.
So let's go there then, since you want to go there. You're saying that twice a week has no difference in what happens with waste, whether it's rodents or flies or maggots, that there's no difference at all, since you're the expert. There's no difference.
Well, we're speaking specifically about rodents. In that instance right there, rodents would have to be able to have access to waste for you to say that the collection frequency was impacting rodents, which means people would have to be putting waste outside of their collection cart.
Okay, so we're going back to what you're saying is that the onus is on the household or the business to make sure you keep it inside. So if you don't keep it inside, then that's just.
Inside your cart.
Inside, okay, not inside your house, but inside
I
your
mean,
car.
there's two separate issues. You're talking
Okay.
about rodents.
And I'm sorry for interrupting.
Which don't access things inside your cart with the lid closed.
Okay,
And then we're talking about putrid waste, which leads to flies and maggot, which are generally driven by food waste, which we're saying keep
Okay.
inside as long as possible before you put it into that
Okay,
trash
so-
cart, which should be bagged and put in that trash cart.
okay. So you're on the record as saying that once a week, twice a week, it really doesn't matter as long as the business owner or the homeowner is doing what they need to do to protect their business or their property, whether it's pests, whether it's flies, whether it's maggots, or whether it's rodents. As long as they do more, then it should be okay.
I'm saying that when we look holistically across the city at once a week versus twice a week trash collection, the residents or households put out the same amount of debris, whether it's once a week or twice a week.
And
There's
so
definitely-
there's no advantage to getting waste twice a week versus once a week. It's all the same.
No, there's clearly, obviously, an advantage to having more frequent trash collections. I will tell you that the cost of having twice a week trash collection is $12 million more a year. I will tell you that we're already running a deficit on collections as opposed to the revenue that we generate of $16 million a year. And we're being proposed a 30% operating cost across those contracts. So I'm not sure how the city could justify paying an additional $12 million for trash collection services for twice a week for an issue that, for the majority of the city, doesn't exist.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Torre is saying that the health concerns and the issues around waste disposal and pickup are the same, whether it's once a week or twice a week. I disagree with you there, but I understand that's your position. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Torrey?
Okay. Coming back to our slides here, so 2026 goals for the Department of Sanitation, obviously these are tempered given the proposed budget for this year. But our main priority continues to be around our personnel. We have a number of vacancies of essential personnel. You see here 1 supervisor, 4 equipment operators, 4 laborers. Those 4 equipment operator vacancies constitute 20% of our equipment operator positions. The 4 laborers constitute 10% of our labor positions. It is extremely hard to perform 7-day-a-week service, 365 days a year with those types of vacancies of essential positions. So we certainly would advocate for those, at a minimum, those vacant positions be filled as soon as possible. We are in the process of awarding and transitioning we would like to award and transition a long-term sanitation services contract for Area 5, which is the French Quarter and DDD. We do have a stopgap RFP currently out right now. It was released on October 10th. Submissions are due on October 24th, which will carry us for 6 months into the next year and the next administration. As was mentioned during the ORS presentation, we continue to seek to expand curbside recycling via the EPA Swiffer grant that the city was awarded, and we're working with all stakeholders to finalize a scope that's agreeable to all parties and maximize the value of that grant. And as always, we want to continue to install new public litter cans to combat litter hotspots around the city. So we were able to install 168 litter cans so far in 2025, but I think everybody would agree that there is certainly a need for additional public litter cans across the city.
Matt, let me jump in here with 2 questions. Number 1, I think, and I know that we need more litter cans along Lafitte Greenway. And I know that there are underutilized cans other places. Has your team taken a look at the utilization and possibly moving to hotter spots than for the underutilized cans?
So it's not something that we have done. It's certainly something we can do. I will just clarify, the Department of Sanitation doesn't service the cans on the Greenway. That falls under NORD. Those are their cans, and they service them actually along the pathway. We service just the public right of way, so like where the public street would intersect with the Greenway would fall under us, but certainly open to looking at utilization and see if we can reallocate cans to maximize their use.
That would be great, and if you could work with NORD to do that, to figure that out. The second thing is what I asked you, sort of not while you were at the table. How can we increase glass recycling or encourage glass recycling? I will tell you that I drop my glass off at the Mardi Gras Indian Den because they are working with Glass Half Full. I know that there are other locations throughout the city. Even if the city doesn't contract with Glass Half Full, can you not promote where those public areas are where the public can drop off glass to be recycled?
So I don't want to jump too far ahead to the impacts of the proposed cuts, but they do impact recycling services, at least in proposal, recycling services and glass recycling services at the city's drop-off as well as here at City Hall. I mean, we have I would say, a wonderful relationship with Glass Half Full and work with them almost since their inception. I would have no issue with partnering with them to cast a further broadcast of their services to make people aware of it. I think in any way that we can collaboratively work together to bring services through the city for glass recycling that is funded, we would gladly support it. I know you were behind the recommendation to bring glass recycling here to City Hall. That was an easy, quick win, and I know people use it every week. And if there are other things we can do to further glass recycling throughout the city, we would be strong proponents of it.
Yeah, we might just want to look at other buildings that are owned by the city and or NORD to set up glass recycling centers there throughout the city. Again, it's the easiest item to recycle. We can use it for coastal restoration. We should be doing this 100%. And if it's not paying Glass Half Full, it should at least be collaboration with Glass Half Full to promote their services and drop-off locations.
Absolutely. Here on our personnel side, quickly just to highlight, you see here our current actual FTEs at 69. This is down from the budgeted 75 FTEs for 2025 and the projected budget for 2026 of 73 FTEs. Sorry. Here, just quickly, we'll touch on the impacts, but you see, I mean, a pretty dire cuts to the Department of Sanitation, whose budget is largely made up of contractual obligations. So $18.8 million overall. We'll get into the details of what those impacts look like, but they will hit on both personal services as well as other operating.
And the overtime is for special events overtime?
I will certainly touch on that as well.
Okay.
Yes, you can go on to the next one. So we'll start with the budget impacts of personal services here. So to start with, the proposed arbitrary unclassified pay reduction will undoubtedly have a negative impact on morale and jeopardize employee retention. So we, perceive this as an inequitable reduction focused only on one group of employees. And we should be looking at the entire city workforce if we're talking about doing pay adjustments. The inability for us to backfill essential labor and equipment operator positions since July of this year has certainly had a direct impact on productivity, responsiveness, and morale. I can tell you from this past weekend alone in this city, we had a major convention. We had Oktoberfest happening on the Bayou. There was a second line and a Saints game, amongst other things. Probably they were having those are the major things. It is extremely difficult to keep up with the level of events that are happening in the city, which are continuing to grow while we're dealing with these financial constraints here at the city. So that's something we'll have to continue to look at to address. Within the proposed budget, Mardi Gras 2026 overtime funding is underfunded by $274,000. So we know on an annual basis what the cost is for overtime, both for the sanitation employees as well as the other city departments that support us during Mardi Gras. The total allocation in the proposed 2026 budget for overtime for sanitation is $236,000, I believe. That in and of itself is $274,000 less than what we need for Mardi Gras. That leaves no overtime allocations for anything else in the rest of the year. And we all know that there are reasons where overtime is required. I touch on that here, the lack of overtime, which most impacts field operations, will have a direct impact on the services, including litter removal, illegal dumping and waste tire removal, disaster event cleanup, Mardi Gras and special event cleanup, second line cleanup, priority requests, and public health hazards. With regards to the other impact to other operating, this is where the lion's share of the impact is, given that the majority of our budget falls in the other operating bucket. While we don't advocate for these cuts, we did need to preserve solid waste collection services throughout the city. And in order to do so, this is where the cuts are being proposed to make, and we do hope that they can be mitigated. So these cuts would eliminate recycling services across the city, across all avenues. This includes citywide curbside recycling services for 165,000 households that currently receive once a week recycling service via our curbside contractors, the weekly recycling drop-off, including 4 annual shred days and our annual household hazardous waste day, as well as the glass recycling that occurs there each week. City facility recycling, which occurs at close to 30 buildings currently, which includes glass recycling here at City Hall. Third-party illegal dumping remediation support, which has allowed us to bring in the response times for illegal dumping significantly over the past 2 years, and generally improve the quality of life in neighborhoods for residents. Supplemental interstate highway sweeping and mowing. The city currently supplements the state's efforts to mechanically sweep and mow the highways on certain cycles. That would go away. Delayed Mardi Gras and special event cleanup due to underfunding of the operational portion of the Mardi Gras budget. And enhanced services in Area 5, which is the French Quarter and DDD. So as a part of the Area 5 contract, there are a number of enhanced services: pressure washing, mechanical street sweeping, orphan bag removal, organic waste removal, graffiti and sticker removal. All of those would cease under these proposed budget cuts.
I'm going to channel Councilmember Green, who has often said that we should not be paying to clean up the state highways. The state should be paying for those things. And the other thing is the state has often said and hung its hat on Service Area 5, the French Quarter, et cetera, to mitigate the loss of enhanced services, the state should be taking a look at investing in our Department of Sanitation so that we can continue those enhanced services in an area that not only drives the economy of the city of New Orleans, but drives the economy of the state of Louisiana. Councilmember Green?
You brought up a very interesting issue because just on yesterday morning at 7 a.m., members of the New Orleans Police Department, the Sanitation Department, the Office of Homeless Services and Strategies, and the Health Department were cleaning up an encampment on state-owned property. They have the jurisdiction under I-610, and at the end of the day, I'm publicly now asking the state to look at the fact that the most important city of New Orleans is going to have to make severe budget cuts because of a terrorist incident, because we host so many major events, because we haven't been reimbursed by the the state or the federal government. And your presentation, just at this time, where we just spent thousands of dollars yesterday on police and on vehicles to clean up under an interstate that was right adjacent to the St. Roch Bend community, reminds me of the fact that I'm asking the state to look at some of the needs of the city of New Orleans. We're going to have to make some cuts, but I'm asking the state to be deliberate about recognizing that if we're going to continue to be the city that leads this state in terms of generating revenues and the like, we're going to need some help with our needs. And I don't think that they can look at irresponsible spending. For example, no one anticipated a terrorist event. No one anticipated a snowstorm. Mardi Gras was run well in terms of all of the services that were provided. It generated tremendous revenues for the state. The state generated revenues through the Superdome, through the Convention Center, through the entities that the state controls, that we have no resources that are generated from the leases and the rentals that take place at those facilities. This is a good time for me to ask, and thank you, Councilmember Harris, for that segue into what happened just yesterday. We're spending money in areas that don't fall under the jurisdiction of the city of New Orleans. I think it's fair to say that the state should join with us in providing support for some of these needs that we have. Thank you.
And to both your points, we have had conversations with DOTD about the impact of the interstate sweeping, and those conversations are ongoing, and I'm optimistic which we will be able to bridge the gap with state taking over what we were providing in a supplemental fashion for that. So that's good news on that front, but I agree there is a lot of room for collaboration. And I do want to give the state credit where they do participate. We have seen a lot of effort around enforcement with regards to dumping and along the interstate and along the interstate service roads, and we've seen a number of arrests as a part of that collaboration between the state, Wildlife and Fisheries, and New Orleans Police Department. So, but agree, there's a lot more collaboration that certainly could happen.
You're very diplomatic, and I appreciate that. I'm not taking away from the fact that some people from the state are working with us, and I want you to know that. I appreciate that. But just yesterday morning at 7 a.m., it was all city.
You're right, and I know you are there many times for those encampment cleanups, which I won't say the majority, but many times are under the interstate ramps, is where they are housed and where they're occurring. So I know you're very well aware of them.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. And just to put a finer point on it, you all clean up around the Convention Center, the Superdome, the arena, all of which are state-owned entities, not owned by the city of New Orleans. So again, as the Department of Sanitation is facing these big budget cuts, we should be tapping the state and asking for money so that we can ensure that those areas that are largely tourist-driven can continue to be cleaned by the Department of Sanitation.
Just to clarify, so everybody's clear on that. So the Downtown Development District technically cleans up as far as litter removal, graffiti abatement, pressure washing in the DDD, which would be around the Convention Center, around the Superdome. We provide for public litter can collection and illegal dumping removal as well. And for obviously things like every Saints game, the tailgate that occurs in the vicinity of the Superdome, that falls under us as well. So there's shared responsibility there as well.
Thank you. You have more to go through your...
Just have one, I think this one slide is just a wrap up, and I think we've hit on it, right? That the proposed reductions for personnel and other operating will have a direct impact on services. It'll result in a decrease in cleanliness and quality of life for our neighborhoods. Response times will increase. And I know this was touched on in some other departments' presentations, but we're already starting to see this, a decrease in morale within the Department of Sanitation certainly will lead to reduced productivity, increased absenteeism and attrition rates, and it'll further exacerbate this impact to our service delivery model. That's all. Happy to take your questions.
Councilmember Green?
Oh, wait, I do have one more slide.
One more
I
slide,
apologize.
right.
It was an important one around what we can do potentially to mitigate some of this without incurring additional costs. So the Department of Sanitation for years has partnered with Job One, who's supplied grant-funded labor to us to support field operations. Over the past 8 years, we've actually hired 51 employees through that program. So Job One provides funding for folks to work with us. We get to see them up close and personal, and then hire them on full time when that grant funding comes to an end. So 51 employees hired over the past 8 years. We've been able to restart that over the past month or so. We have a couple employees that are going to be working with us now. But that's a great opportunity for us to supplement our labor. The challenge will be certainly when the time comes for that grant funding to end, when usually that decision point on hiring comes, which is the whole point of the grant. If we don't have the funds to hire these employees, they will go away and they won't have employment with us. Using technology to streamline and optimize field operation routes. So this is our public litter cans collection, our litter removal, our mechanical street sweeping and reporting. We're in the process of onboarding onto the city's new asset management system. I believe that will offer some efficiencies and economies of scale with regards to those activities. And around the public recycling events, whether that's the drop-off, the shred days, or household hazardous waste days, if funding goes away for those, we certainly should look for sponsorship opportunities because they are invaluable events for residents that we want to see continue on. Now I'm done.
Thank you. Councilmember Green.
I'm going to wait until after the public comment.
Alrighty then. Sage Michael, followed by Darnell Phillipson, and then Jesse Perkins, and then Angela Kinlaw.
Yeah, thank you. As far as like with the trash situation, with the collection, I know that we really used to 2 times a week, and we just used to that. Listen, I don't have a full family. It's just me and my dog, y'all. I don't have 5 children and other people putting trash in my can. So I cannot speak for those homeowners who really have a lot of waste. So while we're in this contract, I just want to encourage us to let's do what we can to try to mitigate some of these nuisances that Councilman Thomas was saying, like flies and waste. Let's try to move more towards composting. I know that for me, that really take the stink out my can at my house. And recycling, y'all, the recycling program we have, it's not the best, but it takes some of the stuff out my can and put it in another can. So I know it's tough. We deserve what we deserve, y'all. Twice a week trash, that's what we used to, and it seemed like we just a citizen that get cut and cut and cut and cut. And all our life has been born, raised in New Orleans, we don't see growth, we just see cuts. So while this thing was negotiated, it was 15 years ago, and now we got a new one. I mean, let's just see if we could get it back, and let's just take care of communities in the meantime. And I would say that Department of Sanitation is key to keeping a lot of these nuisances out of the community. Matt, as far as Albury's, he got people clean up on Claiborne. I mean, he know the second line schedule. I mean, even on weekends, he hired my cousin who worked for sanitation. I was good to see my little cousin Kendall having a job down there. So the Department of Sanitation should not be cleaning up after our streets. We need a comprehensive program to have a culture of cleanliness, to really have it where we keep our streets clean and have sanitation deal with sanitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sage. I think that's a good point about educating people on composting and other means of reducing waste. Daryl Phillipson, followed by Jesse Perkins. Darnell? Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I wanted to just have you guys think about this. The doubles to dorms, short-term rentals, I mean, you don't know if they're having a party or whatever. They generate a lot of trash. And once a week, I don't think is enough for certain areas. I mean, you know, the density, the population density over there, like it's increased by 30% between Carrollton and Broadway. And, you know, like Sage, I mean, we don't generate a lot of trash, but there are areas that are generating it, and rodents are a problem. And so many of us are paying for rodent service. So if there is any way that could be a fee that maybe some of these these developers take on, like, you know, I understand they have abatements and, you know, they have the density bonus or whatever it is. I mean, if there's something that they can add, like just, you know, if they even have someone come by with a pickup truck and picking up this garbage once or twice a week, it's going to help the other neighbors, because right now it's just, the smell is god awful. You've got businesses, and I'm mainly talking about Broadway and between Broadway and Carrollton. It's just not pleasant, and you do have a lot of families that still live over there, and they're having to make the best of it. So I was pretty surprised that we're still considering once a week. I thought that was going to be, I thought that as of January 1st that would be different, but I guess not. So anyway, if there is anything that, like I said, a private service for certain areas that are generating more trash, you know, is that something that you all could consider or no? Or
Well, I was going to get ready to ask Matt that question. So, I mean, I realize this is always tricky when there's sort of a sui generis situation, which this is, but is there something about if you treating something that has more people in an area, so it's more like a commercial than a residential, and they have to pay a commercial fee as opposed to a residential fee? Would that be a potential way to try and solve this?
I mean, we're open to looking at everything. I'll say in a lot of situations, similar to what are being described, there really is a lack of understanding around services that are available, right? So as I mentioned, each service location is eligible for 2 trash carts. So if you're a quad, that means you're eligible for 8 95-gallon trash carts. We find that a lot of people don't know that. And when we tell them that, they're surprised, and of course they want a second trash cart to help with containment. But we also run into locations that simply have volumes that exceed the permitted amounts and need to then privately contract for service. So there are locations around the city that exceed what's permitted and then have to have either a private dumpster service or a private collection service, which is more frequent to accommodate that. Our front end contact information is sanitation@nola.gov.
Yeah.
We currently have 1 ranger assigned to each council district, which is certainly insufficient, but they will go and visit these locations, which we are apparently, you know, underutilized, and we'll talk to the property owner about how to mitigate what's going on.
Yeah. And Matt, to be clear, like, I'm not trying to cast any blame here. I'm trying to solve, and like what Darnell is saying is, you know, it's almost like an STR problem that you're taking residential, but you're really commercializing. And unfortunately, in this part of my district, also in Councilmember Harris's district, it's really taking property that was leased for families, for renters, for homeowners, and now you've commercialized it. So how do we make, I think the easiest thing was make them pay that commercial fee. If you want to act like commerce, then pay like commerce. And then it takes the burden off the residents too.
So, is my mic, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The only thing that I wanted to say is I don't think that the dumpsters would work
And
in
dumpster
the
was just-
Maple Street area, because because these kids are just taking their trash cans and they're not even using
Yeah,
them.
right. I mean,
You know, and so that would be a bigger like, it's just, I just almost feel like, and like, even if, like I said, just having a pickup truck drive around and, you know, I mean, dumping it in another, like, I don't know, but it's just, it's all over the place. It's a mess. So
yeah.
anyway.
Well, I mean, again, I think what we're all saying is we're open to solutions, and like this is an issue that is acute in the university area, Broadmoor, in areas that Councilmember Harris and I share, and we're open to solutions to certainly. And I think the other thing too is like really important to me, as I'm sure to you, is to make the owners and the students pay for it and not the residents.
I think there's some work that we can do with safety and permits around short-term rentals to figure out what the sanitation plan looks like for the STRs that are approved.
That'd be great.
There are, not to pile on, but, and thank you, Darnell, but there are multifamily buildings in my district, for example. There is one that is owned by a city employee that has had several code enforcement violations that just have multiple trash cans out and they're full every single time I drive by. That sort of multifamily complex should be required to have a dumpster that is serviced privately, and we should be removing those trash cans. And I think I put that on your radar, and hopefully that will get resolved as they are coming back into compliance with the code enforcement issues.
Let us know. I know we've worked with Matt over the past, recently on several locations that are in that exact predicament where what we do in that situation, again, is we will provide notice to the property owner. We will give them a time frame to procure private collection service, which is adequate, more than once a week, more carts, and then we will ask them to surrender the city carts and remove them. So that's underway as we speak at several properties in your district. Right now, it's just, we need to know about it, and then we have to make contact with the property owner and do it. But we do that regularly as far as moving people off the city's rolls into a private collection model.
Thank you. Sorry to get into public comment. Jesse Perkins, followed by Angela Kinlaw. Okay, Angela. And then Ben, you're last up.
So just to co-sign, the 2 times a week trash pickup absolutely does make a difference. But since we're talking about this now, I don't think I got an answer to my question before about what the holdup is regarding the residential recycling expansion, because it seems that most folks in here are in favor of recycling. We want to see glass and every possible thing that can be recycled. Composting is really the answer for a city that says that it is moving forward and not backwards. And so I'm just wondering if it wasn't answered before, can somebody just answer that question now, what the holdup is around that?
I can do it at the end of your comments if you want. Sure. Are you done? Yeah. So certainly, sanitation's been partnering closely with Resilience and Sustainability on that EPA Swiffer grant. The crux of the issue right now is there are ongoing conversations with the city's curbside collection contractors around what the model looks like. The grant, as originally envisioned, was a universal recycling program where all households would be issued a cart proactively. There's been certainly some conversation and feedback around whether or not that model works. Our contractors are advocating for an opt-in model, albeit maybe a more aggressive opt-in model that really prioritizes a resident requesting a service to demonstrate that they're going to be engaged and use that service. So we are continuing that dialogue. I know we are currently working through a proposal around a pilot program, which might bridge the gap between universal and opt-in to see exactly what would happen during that pilot before we move full force into deploying carts across the city. But so the project is still happening, it's still there. We're just continuing to have those conversations before we finalize the scope. And then ultimately the council would then approve the actual cart contract, which will supply the hardware to facilitate the program.
Thank you.
Just share that opt-in is a barrier, it's an unnecessary barrier.
Angela, if we can have the conversation offline, and I'm happy to participate in the conversation as well. Ben Bagwell?
Good morning. I do want to acknowledge the barriers for the opt-in program. I also want to re-educate residents and request that 311 potentially even send out a text as soon as possible, reminding residents, call 311 today, go to the website. You are all obligated to get a bin. Sanitation has a bunch of brand new shiny blue bins, thousands of them on Elysian Fields in their plastic wrap. Let's get those to residents. Let's show that people want this. Let's get feet on the street today to educate people that they can start signing up and be part of this, because we want people to grow. It sounds like we have a lot of problems and issues, funding, how we handle our trash, extra pickups, potentially a system that doesn't work. The solution really is compost. Let's have that conversation. Glass is great. It's been relevant for the last so many years. The solution is compost. Compost is me and you. Mr. Green, it's in your last name. We need you to go green. I'm your constituent. I would like to request today that you connect me to Parks and Parkways and to sanitation and to ORS, and we see about how we can handle the city's natural resources right here in the city of New Orleans, providing resources, providing jobs. That's called real cycle. It happens in Mother Nature. It happens to Earth. When we take a step away from our phones, when we take a step out of these rooms, when we're bullying each other, and we connect to nature, the natural processes. When leaves fall off the trees, they feed the soil and turn into new trees. And we die from dust you were created, from dust you were shall return. That's compost. Let's focus on that. Let's use this EPA grant to buy green bins. Let's get our contractors who are already getting paid to do pickups to collect those crawfish shells that don't even belong in our trash can. Those are compost. We get 2 days a week pickup by collecting the materials that belong in a different place in the landfill, by respecting our resources, by respecting this local who has built this vision and is trying to share it so desperately with my city. Please, thank you. I need you all. Let's do something different. Now's our chance.
Thanks, Ben. Councilmember Green?
Director Torrey doesn't mention this too often, but the bidders on the contracts to collect garbage were given the option to give one or twice a week pickup. The reason that the costs have gone up is because since the contracts were initiated 15 years ago, there's been higher insurance costs, there's been higher labor costs, there's been also there were requests built into our proposals that ask for more energy efficient vehicles and that we have, for example, certain supervisors in place. When given the option for 1 time or 2 times a week collections, the number came in too high at 2 times a week collections to be able to be paid within the existing fee. Did I use any language that was incorrect?
No, I think you did a great job summarizing it, but it is a complex issue, and I don't want to in any way diminish people's feeling that twice a week collection would not be beneficial. I think where the city came from, obviously, is looking at value,
the cost,
and service. And there was an incredible emphasis put on the service level. And I can't overestimate or overemphasize the dramatic change in service level that we've received under these new contracts. In 2022, the average number of miscollection complaints per month was over 1,400. We get 68 miscollection complaints a week now, which is maybe 300 a month. So again, 80% reduction. Of those 300 a month, 90% of them are invalid. Because in these contracts now, we have GPS and we have cameras around the truck. So when a contractor gets a miscollection complaint, they immediately go see, did the truck pass the house? And if it did, they look at the cameras. And in 90% of those cases, what we find is either the cart wasn't curbside when the truck passed, or they actually did collect it and the resident refilled it and put it back out and called and said they didn't collect it. But the video clearly demonstrates that, and we send those videos to residents when they request them. So in addition to those equipment, technology benefits to these new contracts that, again, as you mentioned, we caught up on 15 years of lack of investment on pay and inflation that had occurred in these contracts. There also was an emphasis placed on the employee, making it sure that full-time employees were a part of these contracts, that they received livable wages and then got benefits as part of their employment, all of which were a part of the evaluation criteria and a part of these contracts. So all of those things contribute to increased costs for contracts that we were already paying low bid costs that were artificially low. When we look across our neighboring parishes across the state, we're not overpaying for our service. Jefferson Parish is paying close to $30 a month. Now they're getting twice a week trash, but they're not getting recycling. If you go west to Baton Rouge, they're paying over $30 a month for their trash and recycling collection service. And if they want a second cart, they have to pay, I think, $7 a month to basically rent that second cart. Well, we're providing that cart for free. So it's a very difficult analysis to look at when you're trying to do an apples to apples comparison. I will tell you that the city is receiving excellent service right now at a good value. And I think as an operator of a department and a person who's responsible for using city funds, given the current financial climate we're looking at, that's really what we should be focused on. Adding $12 million to the deficit that we're already facing on sanitation services to provide twice a week trash collection seems like an extremely low priority in the grand scheme of all of the other things that you're going to hear over the next 2 weeks. I'm not in any way, again, diminishing the benefit to certain households that could be, but I'm telling you, you're going to hear a lot of departments ask you for different things. I'm here asking you for other things that I'm prioritizing ahead of that as well, and you all are going to have to make those decisions, and that's a lot of money. $12 million when we're talking about a budget deficit right now of $200 million. So happy to continue to have the conversation. I think there are definitely ways we can get information out to households to how to maximize the benefit of the current program around carts, containment, best practices around storing and maintaining their waste to make sure that everybody is getting their best the value from these contracts.
There's another question that you are familiar with because you've attended meetings and you've been there. When we asked, would you want to pay more for twice a week? The answer is no.
Absolutely.
If I can call 311 and get the furniture picked up and the appliances picked up and everything picked up on the trash collection day, I would prefer that than to have an increase in the fee. And I do want to close out my comments with saying this. Yesterday morning at 7 a.m., I was at 610 and Franklin Avenue. You all have recorded that you've done 16 homeless encampment cleanups. You've done a lot more than that, because when I call you and someone has pitched a tent on public property and they're by themselves, you've cleaned up an encampment. Of course, after the Office of Homeless Services and Strategies has gone by and talked to the person. But when that material is left because that person has moved, you all are there to clean it up. And I just want to say to your workers, because we talk about morale and that they're going to be cuts, I want to let you tell them, especially in my behalf, but I know on behalf of everyone who is here, we appreciate that work, and I see it. I see them working on Saturdays. I see them working on property that's under the jurisdiction of the state of Louisiana. I see them cleaning up in front of a post office off Dalman Boulevard when the workers couldn't get out because some clown, some criminal, had dumped tires right in front of the entrance to a federal installation. That's how bad these illegal dumping criminals are. They have disregard for the entire city, the welfare of the city, and they cannot be excused. And I appreciate the police and the members of the state police for arresting them and for fining them. But I just want to let you know, in terms of morale, that we see their work and we appreciate it. And they are one of the most unappreciated group of people in this city. But if it weren't for that kind of work, and I'll also include sewage and water board workers who go in the heat and in the cold into drains, nasty, funky drains to clean up, let them know that we appreciate their work. I appreciate what sanitation did yesterday. I appreciate the disbursement of the needles that were around, the removal of all of that trash that for some reason had just been collected there. But I see that work and I appreciate it. We're going to do everything that we can to minimize the damage to sanitation, but this is a day of reckoning in some respects. But thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Drusa.
So two things, Matt. One is, to your point about the change in services, I will just tell you anecdotally, we've gotten emails to our office saying, the trash wasn't picked up today. And then, like, the cameras were checked, and like, oh, my spouse didn't bring the trash to the curb, right? I mean, we've gotten a lot of those. And then now that word is out that things were taped, those have dramatically reduced. So I just want to give a full-throated voice to that is what happens. The second thing is, and I realize you have to deal with the comms department, but I do think there's a knowledge deficit between what you all at the table and even what we know, what the public knows. And the hard part is there's a narrative that I'm paying for twice a week service, but I'm only getting it once. And the truth is that the costs have skyrocketed over the last several years. The city has lost $86 million, 23, 24, 25, by not increasing the rate, and we haven't increased the sanitation fee since 2012. So if we want to have a conversation about what we want to provide and how we want to offer services and what we want to do, you can't expect 2025 services at 2010, 12 costs. So I just urge you all to think about how that is messaged, because I can't tell you how many places I've gone. It's like, I'm paying for twice a week on Facebook, twice a week, Instagram, twice a week. You're not paying for twice a week. Like, we're not just a little bit in the red, we are way in the red. So my hope is, like, as we start to build this out and all the transitioning that's happened, And I know that you know it, but if like the communication people can help spread that word, I think that will help all of us collectively.
Agree.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Councilmember Green
Motion to
moves.
adjourn.
Seconded by Councilmember Jeruso. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.